Naruto the Iceman of the Senju clan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101. They are all men. Who doesn't know who is who? Kurama Yunhei, the younger brother of Kurama Kangan, the current leader of the Kurama clan, is the square-faced uncle we saw in the ward at the beginning. It was also the only request made by Narashikaku and Kurama Kangan after the conversation. No matter where he goes, as long as he leaves Konoha village, Yakumo must be accompanied by at least one jounin of his clan. It's not that I don't trust you, but the eldest lady has never traveled far. We must ensure complete guarantees and supplies. For the opponent's reaction and behavior, Senju Mayuki can also understand. After all, he is the treasure of the whole clan. It is enough to give face to him without sending a tactical team to follow, especially when Kurama Runke arrived. He placed a few scrolls in front of him without saying anything. Medicine, clothing, food, silver, uncle, medicinal materials, clothes, and food can all be understood. What the hell is this silver? Banknote? Silver seals? Do you always use scrolls to carry money when you go out? How stupid are you big families? We went out to treat illnesses, cure. It's not like going to Tokyo for some hot-blooded shopping. Sure enough, I'm used to being poor. It is difficult to understand the thoughts and brain circuits of rich people. With the Jonin leading the team, all that's left is to choose teammates. In fact, he originally wanted to find Metke at the beginning, so together with himself, he has long range, melee, and auxiliary capabilities. What a good configuration. It's not that I don't want to go on a mission with Izumi, but don't I still have work? If there are 2 people left, I can still support him. If only Hyuga Takuma is left, it is indeed a bit too bullying of an honest person. And if the effect of the lake water is really good, it can also repair Kei's body. By the way, after all, this hot-blooded idiot is a bit of an idiot, but he still treats himself very well, and he deserves to be remembered and rewarded like this. Naruto office. Metke. After hearing the list from Senju Zensen's newspaper, the Third Hokage couldn't help but pick up his pipe and smoked silently for several times. Finally, he shook his head and said to him, I know you two have a good relationship, but a thing is a mission after all. Teamwork is the most important for a team. This kid has a bit of a wild temperament and specializes in physical skills. We need specific staffing to be able to work with him. Form a collaboration. Having said this, he raised his gaze and looked at Senju Mayuki. So my suggestion is that it would be safer for you, team, to go on this mission together. Moreover, Kurama Yakumo is still a little girl. If there is not a girl in the team, there will definitely be a lot of inconveniences along the way. Although what he said was reasonable, Senju Mayuki was still a little hesitant. But the prison guard. Hey, it's just on duty. It's not a big deal. The Third Hokage smiled reassuringly upon hearing this. And haven't you already treated those prisoners very honestly since you took office? Then just let others take over for a while. You don't have to worry about this. I will tell them. Brat, I've done so many things and made so many arrangements for you two. How could you possibly break up the team so easily? Although Kurama Yakumo is only a 4-year-old child, it is impossible for him to understand feelings or likes. But after all, the brat is only 8 years old now. Old man, I'm already 60. Who doesn't know who there is a difference of 4 years? Can that be called a difference? Men are creatures that always like to be young. Anyway, you kid, don't think of some nonsense ideas. Even if you talk nonsense today, you still have to bring Izumi Uchiha with you. Regarding the goal of Senju plus Uchiha, I will never allow any unexpected situations to occur. Okay, now that the personnel are confirmed, let's talk about the time of the mission. After finishing speaking, Senju Mayuki didn't wait for him to regain his composure and continued speaking directly to himself at the speed of a ninja. It takes almost 4 days to go back and forth. However, considering the physical condition of Yakumo's child, plus the time he will stay there for treatment, half a month. No, let's tentatively plan for 1 month. Let's go anyway. The situation in the village is very good now. The war with Union Village has also completely entered the diplomatic negotiation stage. Except for some guys with ulterior motives or exiled ninjas, it is basically unlikely that there will be danger. In this case, let's just let the two of them live together for a while outside. If the time is not enough, then just use the messenger eagle to send me the message. In fact, if possible, the old man would rather the two of them live there directly for 3 to 5 months, a year or two. It would be even better if they could come back directly with a pregnant belly and get married on the fingertips. Of course, it is indeed a bit early to say this now, but it is still possible to make a private lifelong decision. So just like that, 2 days later, the new team gathered at the main gate of Konoha, led by Jon and Kurama, team members Senju Mayuki, Archer Hirizumi, Hyuga Takuma, plus a mission target Kurama Yakumo. In addition, due to physical reasons, I cannot do strenuous activities and can only ride in a carriage. It is simply a proper escort mission. The only problem is, the third generation old man obviously wants Quan to take care of the little Lalita on the road. But look at it now. Quan, looking down, squinting, glaring coldly, scorning, plus a vague snort. Yakumo, doubtful, frowning. Although he is confused, he is not used to the momentum at all, and is not timid at all. Even before they started, the two little girls had already begun to exchange glances, flashes of swords, and flashes of lightning. Seeing such a scene, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but start to worry about the decision of the third Hokage. Old man, are you sure Quan can really take good care of her? Everyone, before we set off, I have something to say. Kurama-run's face is that of a serious person, and only when he looks at Kurama Yakumo occasionally does his eyes show a slight softness. At this time, outside the main gate of Konoha, looking at the 3 youthful temporary subordinates in front of him, although he felt that his words were a bit unpleasant, considering the significance of Yakumo to the clan, the square-faced uncle still had a blank expression. He said it with an expression, I know that you are all the elites of the major families, so I will not look down on any of you. It is precisely because of this that during the mission, if danger arises, I will give priority to protecting Yakumo's safety. I hope you can understand. Of course, that's what we hope for. As the initiator of the task, Senju Mayuki naturally needs to stand up and express his stance at this time. Okay, let's set off now. When Kurama Yakumo got on the carriage and set off, Kurama Yakumo said to the 3 of them, as compensation, all the food and expenses along the way will be left to me. This is what our family wants, so please don't refuse. Of course, Senju Mayuki and the 3 of them quickly thanked each other after hearing this. After all, little Lala's physical condition is there. The possibility of danger along the way is low, but trouble and time consuming are definitely inevitable. Inside the gate, looking at the carriage gradually going away, the 2 young doormen couldn't help but look at each other, and finally they couldn't help but lower their heads and sighed at the same time. Ugh. Once upon a time, I was also a high-spirited young man chasing the wind, until I was arranged to look at the gate together with this sand sculpture next to me. Chapter 102. The so-called hero. The conspiracy in Iwagakure village has been successfully prevented, and our village is one step closer to victory. In Sand Hidden Village, tens of thousands of villagers gathered in front of the Kazakage building. At this time, everyone's eyes were feverishly watching the figure on the roof platform. Oh, Kazakage-sama. The victory in this battle is entirely due to this warrior. As the 4th Kazakage spoke, he stepped aside to reveal Yikang behind him to the sight of the villagers. Storm release Yikang, the hero of our Sand Hidden Village. Woo-hoo-hoo. A burst of more passionate and high-pitched shouts suddenly resounded through every corner of Sunagakure village. Especially the young ninjas who have graduated and gone to the battlefield in recent years, do not care about the feelings of others, and shout at the top of their lungs for their heroes. Master Yikang. Master Yikang. Everyone. Although he had been called hero more than a year ago, it was only a spontaneous honorific given by his companions or villagers. This is the first time for Yikang to have the honor personally certified by Lord Kazakage on such a formal occasion. So standing next to the 4th Kazakage at this moment, looking at the dark scene below, where almost everyone was cheering for him, Yikang, who was not very young, suddenly felt uncontrollably excited. I feel that for everything in front of me, all the efforts and sacrifices I have made are worth it. Whether you have the title of hero or not, it doesn't actually matter. Because to me, every villager in Tsunade village is my relative. For the safety of our loved ones, and for everyone to live happily every day, I will demand myself more strictly, continue to work hard on the front line, and crush every conspiracy in Yanine village. Because I was so excited, there were even obvious vibratos when talking about excitement in some sentences. If it were just a speaker, this would definitely be considered a big mistake. However, for the villagers below, it is precisely because of this imperfect flaw that they feel that Master Yi Kang is a more real and down-to-earth civilian hero. Woo woo. Master Yi Kang. I will always support you. Master Yi Kang. Hehe. Seeing the villagers making such crazy noises and shouts for Yi Kang, even overshadowing himself, the fourth Hokage on the side just smiled warmly. If it had been before the Chunin exams, he felt that he might still have some feelings of envy or jealousy. But it's different now. For him now, the future of Tsunade village is the most important. As long as it can make Tsunade village more prosperous, he can accept it, even if it goes too far. But unfortunately, although he has this awareness, although he is the highest ranking Hokage in the entire village, but the human heart is often the most difficult to predict and control, and it will not change or shift according to one's wishes. Just as Yi Kang was delivering her speech, behind her and the fourth Hokage stood all the senior officials of Tsunade village. Although they couldn't see the grand scene below, just hearing such movements had already aroused some people's dissatisfaction and strange thoughts. Teacher. After half a day, the enthusiastic crowd gradually dispersed. Yi Kang, who was walking home, suddenly heard a voice behind him that was trying to suppress his excitement. Realtree seeing the student he hadn't seen for a while, Yi Kang's sullen expression finally felt like meeting the snowflakes in the morning sun, and a bright flower bloomed in an instant. Why are you running in such a hurry? It's not like you don't know where my home is. Maki's height is a bit taller than that during the Chunin exam, and his figure has also improved a lot. However, when facing the teacher alone, he can't help but show the coquettishness of his childhood. I want to see the teacher soon, and ask the teacher to help me practice. Can't you let me go first, teacher? I just came back from a mission. Although he said this, Yi Kang's eyes were actually filled with smiles, and he began to actively walk towards the training ground commonly used by masters and disciples. Ping, the speed is good. It seems that you have not relaxed your requirements on yourself during my absence. Of course it is. While Maki carefully observed possible loopholes in Yi Kang's actions, he took time to answer quickly. Teacher, you are now a hero certified by Master Hokage personally. As your student, I don't want to experience something like that again, because of my lack of effort. As for the specific what thing, Zenshu didn't say, but Yi Kang thought of it immediately. It seems like that exam is still useful, although I feel very unhappy every time I think of that brat treating his students as tools. But since it can encourage Zenshu to practice harder, I can barely forgive him. Now that you have a direction to work towards, let's work hard towards that goal. Family, village, friends, and the will to protect the village. Any kind will do. As long as you have this energy in your heart, you will definitely become stronger. Is teacher. It's still the Hokage building, but the location has been changed to a high-rise conference room that is absolutely inaccessible to ordinary people. Then, let's each express our opinions on the truce negotiation with Hokage village. On the huge circular conference table, 12 senior officials from various departments in Tsunade village were sitting. Due to the special climate of the Kingdom of Wind, at least half of everyone's face is hidden behind a thin white cloth, making it impossible for others to see their true reaction at a glance. Judging from the negotiation letters from Hokage village, it is clear that the other party has no plans to reconcile with us. That's right. Since it's a truce negotiation, it doesn't matter if they don't give in, but they still make so many unreasonable demands. I think they just. But don't forget, this is the critical period for the decisive battle with Iwagakure village. We can't be fighting Iwagakure village while also being prepared for Kirigakure village, which may launch an attack at any time. It's true. Agree. There is no other way. In order to win the war with Yanain village, I can only agree to their request and sacrifice. Everyone, have you overlooked something? The fourth Kazakage, who had been listening expressionlessly, finally spoke with a gloomy face. The reason why we are able to achieve such results in the confrontation with Iwagakure is because there are warriors like Yi Kang who are fighting risklessly on the front line. Of course we will not forget the hero's contribution to the village. It is precisely because of her outstanding performance that we have the opportunity to negotiate with Kirigakure village, right? While saying this, several senior executives at the table couldn't help but glance at each other covertly, and they could all see the contempt and ridicule hidden in each other's eyes. Haha, is it so easy to be a hero? Yes, we will remember the hero's contribution to Tsunagakure village, and we will always be grateful for the opportunity she won for the village. This is indeed an opportunity. If we reject Kirigakure village this time, if they join forces with Iwagakure village, we will still be the ones to suffer. Yes, if they are really defeated by their joint efforts, it will still be our innocent villagers who will suffer. Lord Kazakage, you must not want to see that happen. Don't talk nonsense. How could Master Kazakage do such a thing? Yes. Seeing these old guys talking to each other, the other party kept talking to tie the villagers together so that he could not say a word of objection. Then seeing that the fourth Kazakage was obviously furious with his face, but still clenched his fists and couldn't say a word, the few old guys smiled proudly at each other. Of course they are not mentally ill and deliberately harmed their own people. Sand Hidden Village really needs heroes. But what they need is an obedient hero who can bring benefits to themselves. Compared with one's own interests, a hero who is out of control and does not stand in line with himself will only become a constraint in the future. The troubles in Kirigakure village and the war in Iwagakure village are just excuses for this community of interests to move to the surface in order to exclude dissidents. In the end, it was a senior executive who set the tone for this meeting. Since no one has any objection, then for the sake of the village, we can only let our hero sacrifice. Chapter 103 Arrival. Travel, stay, eat and drink, continue on your journey. Kuramaranke really does what he says. Apart from traveling, he is serving delicious food and drinks at other times. Especially when passing through towns, he will do it without hesitation. The accommodation must be in first class rooms, food, and drink. A must-have hotel. It just highlights a tyrannical person who is not short of money. The day was so leisurely that it even made Senju Mayuki a little confused. What on earth was he doing here? Even later, even Izumi was a little embarrassed to stare at Kuramiya Kumo again. The service is so good, so soft-spoken. It is precisely because of this that the journey that originally only took 2 days for the ninjas was delayed until the afternoon of the 6th day. I never expected that there is such a magical place in the world. Standing on the edge of the circular pit, looking at the lush woods and sparkling lake below, the group could not help but at the magic of nature before seeing it with their own eyes. Who would have thought that there could be such a beautiful place in the middle of such a barren area with no grass growing on it? Moreover, although I had known it was a circular pit for a long time, looking at the edge of the deep pit that goes straight up and down, it really looks like it was drawn out by a round pit. It is hard to believe that this place was formed naturally. Indeed, even Kuramaranke, who always had no expression, couldn't help but nodded. Looking from here, it feels like this huge pit has absorbed all the vitality and nutrients around it to provide such a prosperous and beautiful holy place. Holy place. Yes. I don't know if I finally arrived at my destination, so I felt a little excited. This time, Kuramaranke was surprisingly interested in talking. Actually, I have occasionally heard people mention it before. It is said that there is a very ancient treasure legend circulating here. I don't know what the specific treasure is, but it seems that until recent years, treasure hunters with various purposes have often come here. There's no end to the trouble here. Zenyu save people. At this time, I suddenly heard Hyuga Takuma exclaiming, and then I saw him running to the right along the edge of the giant pit. When Senju Mayuki heard this, he didn't even have time to think about it. His body had already followed him and ran out of the house reflexively. Only Kuramaranke and the two girls were left looking in the direction they left in surprise. Only then did they see two small black figures on the edge of the pit in the distance. After they tried hard to adjust their sight, they observed after a while, I realized that it was a child who was about to fall. Senior Yunhei, let's go there too. Because he could no longer keep up with the speed of the two of them, Izumi didn't bother anymore. Instead, after communicating with Kuramaranke, they immediately drove the carriage to follow them. Even I had to observe carefully for a while to see that the two black figures were people. Watching Hinata Takuma's retreating figure while driving the carriage, Kuramaranke couldn't help but sigh in his heart because he remembered very clearly that the young man just now didn't turn on his eyes during the whole process. You can have such an advantage in eyesight under ordinary conditions. No wonder no family has ever been able to shake the status of the Hyuga clan. On the edge of the huge pit, a half-grown girl was hanging in the air. The only thing supporting her was the right hand of the boy lying on the huge pit. Ugh. Because of the long period of hanging, both of them had no strength to speak at this time. There were only dripping sweat beads and the boy's painful and insistent screams. Brother, let go. Even though I was obviously scared to death, my tears never stopped, but the hanging time was so long that the girl could hardly feel her arms being held. And as the sweat continued to penetrate, she could also see the increasingly nervous and desperate expression on the boy's face. What? The boy didn't say a word, he just screamed harder and grabbed her hand. Save her. However, as he sweated more and more, the boy who had no extra strength could only watch as the hands of the two of them tightly grasped began to slip. Please, anyone can. Can anyone come and save her? Sissel. A figure flashed past, then before the boy could react, he saw the girl who had just fallen flying up on a big bird. Seeing this scene, the boy was simply shocked. He didn't even bother to free himself from his injured arm. It wasn't until the big bird stopped in front of him with a gust of cold wind that he suddenly exclaimed and hurriedly got up and pounced on it. Sissel. She's fine. She was just too frightened and passed out. Senju Mayuki withdrew the medical chakra, handed Sissel, who was still sweating all over his body, to Hinata Takuma, who followed him, and then raised the boy's weakly hanging arm. Don't move. Both of your arms are weak and your muscles are strained. Sissel. His gaze passed over the two of them calmly, although I didn't read it too carefully, because it was an original plot, but this name plus the scene just now, these two children should be the fat man and the female guard in the Spear of the Sky plot. I don't know whether it was the scene of riding a bird to save someone just now that was too shocking, or whether it was because he was grateful for saving Sissel. In short, after listening to his words, the boy immediately stood still. It was only then that the boy noticed that the big bird he just saw was actually transparent, and he could feel the coldness of the big bird through the air. Is there such a transparent ice bird in the world? Alright. It's just a minor injury, which is almost normal for the current Senju Mayuki, but for a boy who has never traveled far in his life, it is a bit beyond comprehension. Not only are there no diagnoses, there are no injections or medicines. The boy moved his right hand and made a surprised sound in his mouth, his face full of shock and disbelief. The arm that was shaking so much just now actually felt no pain at all now. Well, brother, Sissel, who happened to be unconscious at this time, murmured, and then woke up with a startled scream. The moment the boy saw this, he no longer cared about these strange things and hurriedly stepped forward to take her from Hinata Takuma's arms. I'm here. Sissel. I'm here. As if he was in a dream, Sissel raised his head and stared at him blankly for a while, then suddenly cried wow, and fell into his arms, crying. Wow, brother, I thought I would never see you again. Woo woo. Don't be afraid, it's okay. Seeing that they were agitated, Senju Mayuki and Hinata Takuma had to retreat a little, firstly to avoid, and secondly to wait for Kuramaranke and the three of them to come over. Fortunately, the two just hugged and vented their emotions for a while, then stopped a little embarrassed. My name is Doc, and she is Sissel. We are both from Tonica Village. The reason for the danger just now is all because of me. It's me. It's all my fault. My brother has obviously reminded me several times, but I didn't listen to him. Although they didn't communicate much, it was easy to see that Doc was a bit introverted, while Sissel, as a girl, was more outspoken and more outgoing. After briefly communicating for a while, until the carriage from behind also came over, Doc asked with some embarrassment, "Excuse me, are you?" "We are the ninjas of Konoha village." Senju Mayuki pointed to the forehead protector on her forehead, then took out a scroll from her arms and said, "This is a letter written by the Hokage-sama to the mayor of Tonika village. Since you are from this village, I hope I can trouble you to take us to see the village chief." Chapter 104 Competitors. Konoha village? Naruto? An inexplicable light suddenly appeared in the eyes of Doc and Sissel. Although Tonika village has relatively little information, they have heard about its most powerful neighbor, Konoha village. After all, I have heard the village chief uncle say more than once before that when he encounters trouble that cannot be solved, he often seeks help from the ninja adults of Konoha village. Is this a ninja? Thinking of the fleeting figure just now, and the ice bird that disappeared without knowing when, Doc suddenly felt an uncontrollable excitement in his heart. It would be great if I was also a powerful ninja, so that Sissel would not be in the danger just now. But fortunately, the young man still had a sense of proportion in his heart. This kind of thought only popped up in his mind for a while, and then he suppressed it forcefully. No matter how you say it, it's not from a village, or even a country. Why should people teach an outsider like themselves? Such thoughts flashed through his mind, but Doc didn't show it at all on the surface. Instead, he immediately nodded enthusiastically and agreed. "Okay, I can take you to find the village chief uncle now." After he finished speaking, he looked at the carriage again, with a look of embarrassment on his face. "It's your carriage." Upon hearing this, Senju Zenai and others immediately turned to look at the edge of the pit. Sure enough, everything was straight up and down. The only passable one was the man-made wooden staircase on the edge of the cliff. However, these stairs are only large enough for one person to pass through. It would be too crowded for two people to walk side by side, let alone a carriage. Well, Kurumi Yunhei was also a little unsure for a moment. It's still not sure how effective Senju Mayuki's treatment will be. Yakumo will have to take a carriage when he returns home, so throwing it away is definitely not an option. Although there is a small room above the big pit where the horse can be tied up, I don't know how long it will take to go down this time. It would be too much trouble to come up again every day to feed the horse. Actually, Doc suddenly raised his hand, then pointed at the huge pipelines in front and said, "These pipelines lead to Yichang village. The relationship between our two villages is not bad. If you don't mind, I can." "Forget it, don't worry about it." Just as a few people were looking into the distance along the pipe, they suddenly heard Senju Zinzuki say something, and then they saw him walking to the edge of the giant pit, stretching out his right hand, and pointing at the lake below. Take a deep breath, rise. At first there was no movement, then, less than a second later, Doc was horrified to see a huge vortex appear out of thin air on the lake below. Then I saw a thick stream of water suddenly rising into the sky from the middle of the whirlpool. Boom. Curse. Such a huge movement immediately attracted the whole village to come out to watch, and even the black horse began to snore uneasily. "Senior Yunhei, give it to me." Kurumi Yunhei put his hand directly on the black horse's neck without any communication. Of course, he also understood that Yakumo was still on the carriage, and it would not be good if the horse suddenly went crazy. Soon, the dark horse, whose vision and hearing were blinded by the illusion, gradually became quiet. Upon seeing this, Senju Shinetsu immediately controlled the water flow to condense on the edge of the cliff into a giant ice cube with a diameter of 10 meters. Boom. Crash. The excess water flow crashed onto the water surface again, and everyone who saw this scene, except Izumi and Hinata Takuma, including Kurama Yunhei, couldn't help but have a trace of shock in their eyes. Such a large amount of water can be controlled with just a few gestures, and it can be transformed into ice so easily. How much chakra does this require? Exclamation mark. It should be said that he is indeed a descendant of the Thousand Hands clan. In the past, he had only heard people say how outstanding Senju Mayuki was, and he only regarded it as a colleague to give Lady Tsunade face. It was not until he saw the scene just now that he realized how superficial his previous thoughts were. Not to mention anything else, just this terrifying amount of chakra can crush many veteran Chunin and even Jounin. This child, maybe. He quietly glanced inside the carriage, and when he saw his niece whose eyes were also full of shock and longing, Kuramaranke's thoughts suddenly came to life. The descendant of the first Hokage, the disciple of Lord Tsunade, the most popular and unique person in front of the third Hokage. Even if you don't mention his master-disciple relationship with Naruto, the accumulation of these adjectives on one person is terrifying enough. What's more, he himself is such an outstanding young man. 4 years. Only 4 years old. It's not a big difference at all. Brother, maybe the opportunity for our clan to rise is really coming. While leading the carriage onto the ice, Kuramaranke's thoughts kept wandering back and forth between Senju Mayuki and Kurama. It's not that he is too confident, but no one in Konoha village really thinks that Senju and Uchiha can be combined. So in his heart, Uchiha Izumi is not an obstacle at all. As for it being shameful to rely on a girl's happiness in exchange for a clan's future. Haha, this can only be said, that the benevolent sees benevolence and the wise see wisdom. And, look at Yakumo's current performance. Who can say with certainty that her efforts must be unhappy? Wow, is this a ninja? In the process of controlling the ice cubes to fly downward, Doc and Sissel, who had witnessed such a scene for the first time, were naturally amazed one after another. However, the total height difference from the top to the bottom of the pit is only about 50 meters, so before the two of them had a chance to enjoy the view, the ice cubes had already stopped in the village square. After everyone came down the barrier-free stairs, Senju Mayuki waved to the giant ice block under everyone's gaze, and then saw the giant ice block rise again and fly to the village. Only then did it slowly fall on the lake outside. Wow. Amazing. There were waves of deliberately lowered exclamations from the crowd. Uncle Village Chief as the guides, Doc and Sissel seemed to know better than others, and acted as introducers with a bit of everyone is drunk arrogance. They are ninjas from the Leaf Village, and they saved us just now. HMM. Hello, I'm Lake, the leader of Tonica Village as the village chief. Lake is relatively familiar with the costumes and forehead protectors of Konoha Village. On behalf of everyone in our village, I welcome everyone in Konoha Village, and I sincerely thank you for your help just now. No matter what needs you have here, please just tell me. That's it, Uncle Lake. Senju Mayuki stepped forward and gave a brief explanation, and then handed over the handwritten letter written by the third generation old man. Okay, he took the envelope and opened it and looked at it briefly. The most important thing was to take a closer look at the Hokage's seal. After finding that it was the same as what he had seen before, Lake's attitude suddenly became a little more enthusiastic. No problem. You can just stay here and use as much lake water as you want. As he spoke, Ryuk dismissed the villagers and then guided a few people to walk in one direction. Although we are just a small village here, there is still no shortage of facilities. You can stay in the inn during this period, and there will be someone responsible for cleaning every day. Then thank you Village Chief Lake for your kindness. We will pay you a commission according to the market price. What's the commission? When we asked the Leaf Village for help, you all, Senju Mayuki and 3 others walked in the front. Lake and Kuramaranke, who was pulling the carriage, were walking and chatting in the middle. Behind them were a group of children who couldn't be driven away. They were all listening attentively to Sissel's description of the spectacular scenery he had just seen on the giant pit. Occasionally, they would also shout out words along with her narration. Waves of exclamations. Just when a few people walked to the front of the inn, Senju Mayuki, who was walking in the front, suddenly felt his head dazzle, and then he suddenly raised his head and looked towards the east. What happened? As long as he is in sight, Kwon will always be the first to notice his abnormal behavior. After staring at the eastern sky for a long time, Senju Mayuki slowly withdrew his gaze. Fine. The pendant given to Yikang was just triggered. Chapter 105 Unwilling. Shasha in the valley, that is filled with fog all year round, a graceful figure gradually becomes clear. Is this the burning release ninja of Sand Hidden Village, Mr. Yikang? Suddenly a man's voice came from the front. I'm Kangbo from Kirigakure Village, and I was sent to greet you here. Yikang stopped when he heard the sound and soon saw a ninja wearing a Kirigakure forehead protector emerging from the mist with a kind smile on his face. Ah, it's really you. It's such an honor to see it with my own eyes. Thank you for your hard work. We just crossed a valley. although I don't have a good impression of Kirigakure village, but because he came in the name of carrying out a confidential mission, and the other party's attitude was so humble, Yi Kang could no longer hold a bad attitude. Don't say that. After all, the fog is so heavy. The male ninja named Angami scratched his head while explaining, looking a little embarrassed. And I took the initiative to come to greet you, because I really want to see the hero of Tsunagakure village with my own eyes, had he. As he said that, seeing Yi Kang nodding, he moved sideways to get out of the way with some excitement. Sorry, I was just talking about my own business. Please come this way, okay? Nodding to the other party again, Yi Kang walked past the other party and walked forward. Did Mizukage-sama tell me when he would have time? Because when he came, Kazukage-sama repeatedly emphasized that the secret message must be handed over to Mizukage-sama as soon as possible. Anytime. After Yi Kang passed by, Kangbo immediately followed her, only slightly behind her by half a body, and seemed to be very respectful to her. Mizukage-sama also attaches great importance to this confidential meeting, so he asked me to take you to see him as soon as I receive you. Really? That would be great. When Yi Kang heard this, his mood suddenly became much brighter. Since Kirigakure village showed such an attitude, it was obvious that they were also willing to negotiate. We here in Kirigakure village also want to resolve the conflict with Tsunagakure village as soon as possible. Hehe. The two of them just chatted and walked around, and of course Kangbo was the one talking most of the time. I just don't know if it's an illusion. Yi Kang only felt that as he went deeper, the fog around him became thicker and thicker. However, because Kangbo behind her was too sincere in both speech and behavior, she repeatedly told herself, this is the special environment of Kirigakure village and Kirigakure village. At this time, you must not let your own suspicions affect the diplomacy between the two villages. It wasn't until he saw a narrow valley entrance appearing in front of him that he saw Kangbo suddenly take a few steps with excitement, then stretched out his arm to signal to the front. You can see Kirigakure village after passing the valley entrance in front. Thank you for your hard work along the way, haha. It doesn't matter whether it's hard work or not, it's all for the mission. Seeing that piece is right in front of him, and the attitude of Kirigakure village is so positive, Yi Kang's tense thoughts suddenly feel a little more relaxed. It seems that after this time, we should be able to reach an agreement with Kirigakure village soon. Before I could finish this thought, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my back. That location is the heart. What are you doing? Even at this time, even if you have really felt the pain in your body, Yi Kang is still thinking about the peace that was finally reached between the two villages. How dare he? It is clear that peace will be reached soon. Isn't he afraid of sparking war between the two villages again? Exclamation mark. What? The voice behind him was no longer as sunny and humble as before, but became full of viciousness and hatred. Even when Yi Kang clearly showed no resistance, he stabbed the kunai deeper again. Puff. Well, I just want you to taste the pain felt by those companions who were killed by Tsunagakure village. He grinned and said sinisterly in Yi Kang's ear, then pushed her away with a snap of his palm, and he jumped back and retreated far away. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, countless kunai and shurikens suddenly attacked from the mountain walls on both sides like raindrops. Puff puff. Front, back, arms, legs. By the time the shower of hidden weapons stopped, Yi Kang's body was already filled with kunai and shurikens like a hedgehog. Tap tap tap. He struggled and staggered a few steps, and finally fell to the ground with a weak bang sound. Looking at Kangbo, who was beside him with a proud and vicious smile on his face, although he already had a guess in his heart, Yi Kang still didn't want to believe that fact. Why? We are not. I thought what kind of character the hero of Tsunagakure village would be, but it turns out he's just a naive idiot. Kangbo's voice was very proud. Following his words, rows of figures gradually appeared on the mountain walls on both sides. They looked at Yi Kang, who was lying on the ground bleeding, with the same expression as Kangbo on their faces. So many of my comrades died in the war with you. How can such resentment be eliminated with just a light peace talk? Seeing that there was more and more blood on the ground and Yi Kang's pupils were about to completely dilate, Kangbo's expression became more and more cold and cheerful. Isn't it unexpected? The secret mission you performed was actually yourself, using the death of your hero in exchange for the opportunity for peace talks between the two villages. So this is what heroes of the younger generation, what to protect Tsunade village. It turned out to be just lies. Unreconciled. Obviously I love you so deeply in the same village. Even though I was misunderstood and shunned by some people, I never hated any of them. I'm really unwilling. Exclamation mark. Why can you lie without blinking an eye? Why can you abandon me so easily? Exclamation mark. Those guys in Sand Hidden Village are really good at picking people. If you were smarter. As the blood continued to drain, Kangbo's voice full of pride and ridicule seemed to gradually fade away, and his life experiences began to flash before his eyes like a marquee. Birth, growth, burning escape, meritorious deeds. Konoha. Suddenly the face of a half-grown child flashed in my mind. Senju Shinetsu. Then, as if suddenly blessed, I thought of the necklace that guy gave me. That guy. Could it be that he had expected such a day? No, it doesn't make any sense to think about it now. Hope it actually works. But because the injury was too severe, his body no longer had the strength to move, so he could only mobilize the last bit of chakra to the top of his chest with difficulty. Click. A slight cracking sound penetrated the body and entered the eardrums. After hearing this sound, Yi Kang felt relieved immediately, and then he could no longer hold on. His eyes were distracted, and he gradually lost consciousness. You brat, please. I'm really not willing to die like this. Bang hoo. Seeing the figure that suddenly appeared next to Yi Kang, Kangbo was immediately startled and immediately took out his weapons and became on guard. The Kirigakure ninjas on the mountain wall all formed hand seals without waiting for a greeting. Water escape. Water whip. Water escape. Water surges. Water escape. Water bullet. Chapter 106. Base outside the village. Woo, all kinds of water escape ninjutsu came overwhelmingly. However, Senju Mayuki's clone just glanced at it and then squatted down and pressed his hands on Yi Kang's body. The medical chakra quickly swept over it, and he immediately understood that the other party's situation had reached a point where there was no need to wait. Freeze. Fortunately, there is not much else but a lot of water vapor here. After just consuming a little bit of mental energy, the clone instantly condensed a spherical layer of ice around the two of them. Then he didn't care about fighting with these guys, and directly controlled the ice ball to break through the heavy water escape and fly upward. Ding ding ding, hundreds of Kune hit the spherical ice and were bounced off, but not even one of them had any effect. I could only watch the opponent flying higher and higher with swagger. Damn. Immediately there were people on the mountain wall who couldn't help but cursed angrily and wanted to catch up. No need to chase. The ninjas who had just ran a few steps suddenly looked at Kangbo in confusion. The opponent can fly. How can you catch up with him if you run? But, don't worry, I did stab her in the heart just now. She lost so much blood and her pupils were dilated. How can she be saved so easily? The ninjas on the mountain calmed down a little. But that person is a medical ninja. Even if the chance is 1 in, it doesn't matter if he is saved. Kangbo showed a sinister smile as he spoke. Think about it carefully. Even if you are rescued as a hero who was betrayed by the village, who will Yi Kang hate the most and be the first to seek revenge after he wakes up? So, it's better to say that I hope that person can really save her now. As soon as these words came out, the ninjas present suddenly understood, as if they were waking up from a dream. When he looked again at the ice ball that had turned into a small dot in the sky in the distance, his face had turned into the same sinister smile. Indeed, didn't your Tsunade village betray your own people to seek peace? If one day this betrayed hero suddenly commits suicide himself, or announces the dirty things done by the high level officials, what kind of chaos will the Tsunade village be in? It's not a loss anyway. Now all they need to do is just pretend that this thing didn't happen. The rest depends on whether Yi Kang himself has the fate who in the ice ball in the sky, although I don't understand why the enemy didn't catch up. This is indeed rare good news for Senju Mayuki. After all, his clone does not contain much chakra. While maintaining the existence of the clone, he also needs to use medical chakra to keep Yi Kang alive. If he consumes more chakra, it will probably disappear before long. Fortunately, controlling the flight of the ice ball only consumes mental power. As long as the main body can hold on to this side, there will be no problem. Seeing that Li Kang was covered in hidden weapons of all sizes, Senju Mayuki didn't even know where to start. I've told you that you're not wearing the right clothes. Now it's okay. Let people come all over your body. So much has been lost. It sticks to my hand when I touch it, and it's so sticky. The situation is not good. Excessive blood loss would have caused a sharp drop in body temperature. Coupled with the invasion of ice, even with the infusion of medical chakra, she couldn't last long in this state. TSK. No solution anymore. Take back the medical chakra and mobilize most of your mental power. Freeze. Although there is no absolute guarantee. Although I really don't want to do this. But now we can only use rapid freezing to freeze Li Kang and wait until we return to the main body to find another way. Whether it's hot or not, it really depends on whether your life is tough enough this time. Asterisk 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 Tonica Village. After feeling that the necklace was activated, except for the initial abnormality, Senju Mayuki returned to normal. After all, he just felt that the clone was activated and moving closer, but he could not know what was happening in the clone in real time. But he still had things on his mind after all, so after settling down, he did not start treatment immediately. Instead, he told everyone to move around freely and get familiar with the surrounding environment. He himself came to the clear lake alone. The water here. Although he didn't take a few sips like Naruto, he could clearly feel that the water here gave him a different feeling from the water outside. It felt like strength. It feels like with this water, he can do many things that he has never thought of before. Ice dogs. Kakare transparent ice creature, lying on all fours, and about the size of an ordinary native dog, soon appeared in front of him. Kakare can move, walk, lie down, stand, and even run and bite. Except for the nature of the body structure and the inability to bark, there is no difference between it and a real native dog. Wow, when did you develop this ability again? So far, apart from Izumi, there is no other such lively girl besides Senju Mayuki. Haha. Just now, I suddenly got inspiration after seeing the water here, seeing Izumi touching the top of the ice dog's head with curiosity on his face. Senju Mayuki, who had been having trouble settling down, suddenly became interested and cooperatively controlled the ice dog to stick out his tongue at Quan. And even rolled around after it was over. I also did all the coquettish and leg rubbing movements. The only thing that's a little embarrassing is that I don't know whether Quan's body is too light or he didn't control his strength well. When the broken dog rubbed his legs, he suddenly made the little girl stagger a few steps. Haha, this puppy is so funny. Fortunately, Quan was just curious and didn't care about these small details. He just didn't forget to ask him while playing with the ice dog, is this the only puppy? Are there any other different toys? Well, then let's get a humanoid one. Ice swordsman. X5 who draw your sword. Who cut straight. TSK not to mention, it's really quite interesting when 5 swordsmen with the same appearance and uniform movements move together. Hey, humans are not fun. Animals are cuter. Cute, understood. Ice snake. X10 ice toad. X10 ice chicken. X20 ice lizard. X10 ice. Stop. Seeing your chicken brother running around on the ground, Quan, who was so happy just a second ago, suddenly kicked up your chicken brother and his little friends with 3 feet and 2 legs while squealing into the lake. I'm talking about animals that are as cute as puppies, not these ugly things. Did you mean that? No, how could it be? While denying 3 consecutive sentences at high speed, he controlled the chicken guys to climb out of the lake. Then before Quan raised his feet again, he quickly brought dozens of small animals together, and finally gradually merged together under Quan's surprised gaze, and finally turned into a giant ice wolf that was more than 3 meters tall. How? Controlling the giant ice wolf, he suddenly opened his big mouth and let herself out a silent roar at Quan. It's a pity that Izumi never believed that Senju Shinetsu would hurt. The mighty and domineering roar of the giant ice wolf not only did not scare her, but made her eyes shine with excitement. It's still like this. After knowing him for so long, this was the first time she saw him using his abilities like this. That's right, this was also thought of and realized after coming into contact with these lakes. TSK, this kind of deep feeling is good everywhere, but the girl believes in herself so much that she won't be scared or frightened at all. It's boring turning her head and looking at the sparkling lake in front of her. Senju Mayuki couldn't help but have some thoughts in her heart. Perhaps you can consider using this place as a base outside the village. It just so happens that the incident in Yikang has already happened. Once she is in place, she can be a base housekeeper here, but with the assistance of her ally Tsunagakure village and my own speaking skills, I believe I should still have some confidence in persuading her. Chapter 107. I won't scream anyway. What exactly is the so-called vitality? After thinking deeply about this issue, Senju Mayuki believed that it should be like chakra to the human body. It's unclear whether it is a liquid or a gas, but it does exist in the human body, and it can also exert various effects depending on how it is used. And the reason why the lake in the giant pit is so different is because he guessed that the spear of heaven had been continuously plundering the energy and life around it for thousands of years, and finally it escaped because it stored too much, or the concentration was too high, which affected these lakes. Fortunately, when I was watching anime in the past, because of the sudden change in the style of painting, I still hugged each other a few times. I still remember what Master Yuan Meng mentioned at the beginning of the plot. These lake waters greatly promote cell division, and the speed is comparable to viruses, so for Kuramiya Kumo's treatment, Senju Mayatsuki feels that the focus should be on targeted supply and maintenance of his internal organs, so that they can develop again in high density vital energy. But after all, the operation is to be performed on a living person, so this must be done carefully and steadily. After all, the Dream Master said it was comparable to the speed of a virus, so how could this be a joke? If someone is not careful and gives Kuramiya Kumo another waste or another tumor or something, then it will be very troublesome. Fortunately, Senju Mayuki is a professional counterpart when it comes to playing with water. At least if it were done by someone else, even if Tsunade came in person, she would still need various instruments and equipment to gradually investigate and determine the composition of the lake water. But he was different. As long as he had a general direction in his mind, he only needed to frown and squeeze his eyes to separate various substances in the lake in minutes. It's just that the process of exploring will be more troublesome and consume more mental energy. October 10th. The first clinical trial, reagent materials, preliminary extraction and separation of lake water to obtain a liquid with significantly richer life energy. About 1000 liters of lake water can extract 10 milliliters of liquid of this concentration. Test method, oral administration. Test subjects. For each of native chickens, rabbits, and native dogs, to each male and female. Test result, a large blank. I thought for a while after writing this, then took up my pen and wrote a few words heavily in the upper right corner. Recorder Izumi Uchiha. Izumi nodded with satisfaction. And then Izumi held the notebook in one hand and a pencil in the other, and said to Hinata Takuma seriously, "I'm ready. Let's go." That smug look would have made her wear a pair of black-rimmed glasses and a 1-foot-long school ruler. The only thing that made her a little confused was, there are obviously no beds in this pen, so why is it called a clinical trial? After responding, Hinata Takuma immediately picked up the reagents that had been prepared by his side. Each 10 milliliter tube was poured into the mouth of the test subject one by one. As the attending doctor and the real patient, Senju Mayuki and Kuramiya Kumo watched carefully outside the pen. Especially Kuramiya Kumo. In fact, Senju Mayuki told her from the beginning that this experiment was only to test the influence and effect of the concentration of life energy on living bodies, and it had no practical reference significance for her. It's a pity that she couldn't resist her and insisted on coming to take a look. As a result, she was extremely nervous when she saw the experiment started. She tightly grasped the corners of Senju Mayuki's clothes with her two small hands. Fortunately, the little girl was indeed strong enough. Even though her heart was torn to death, she still insisted on not turning her head or closing her eyes. Click click. Wang wang wang. Rabbit, I won't bark, thank you. Unfortunately, I don't know whether it's because the concentration is not enough or the reaction speed is too slow. except for the chicken brother and the dog brother barking for a while. When the reagents were poured at the beginning, it became the same as usual after that, scratching their heads when they should, plowing the land when they should, and no different reactions could be seen from the surface. Okay. After waiting for a full 15 minutes, there was still no sign that Brother G wanted to sing or dance. Senju Mayuki could only helplessly spread his hands. To be on the safe side, I think it's better to observe for a few days before making a decision. As if because he didn't have to see the outcome right away. Kurama nodded quickly, as if he was slightly relieved. It will be alright. Kurama on the side also nodded. You are the only one here who knows medical ninjutsu, and the mission time approved by Hokage-sama is still sufficient, so just do it at your own pace. Then just leave the observation, and recording to me. A certain Sharingan girl was inexplicably excited. Okay, since you are interested after saying that, several people left one after another, and returned to the inn, leaving only Kwan, a little girl, alone with more than a dozen chickens, dogs, and silly rabbits. It's just that this girl doesn't feel lonely or left out. Reagent taking time. 10:30 AM. On the first day, 15 minutes after taking the reagent, the test subjects showed no obvious reaction. Stare. 10 minutes after taking reagent 3, the test subject showed no obvious reaction. Stare. 10 minutes later. The test subject. Stare. 2 hours later. Kwan. Stop looking now. Let's eat, I'm not hungry. 4 hours later. 5 hours later. Forget it. Just hold on a little longer. It's time to have dinner soon. 6 hours. 8 hours. 12 hours. Until the evening, everyone had fallen asleep early. Kwan, who was alone in the pen and was bored, was suddenly attracted by the slight abnormality of a chicken brother. Right around eye. Fortunately, the light was bright enough, and with the blessing of the Sharingan, all the actions of the test subjects were captured in his eyes in an instant. The next day, at 2:35 in the morning, one native chicken showed agitation that was different from other test subjects. 2:40, the second one. 3:35, the rabbit starts. 4:50. Native dog, 06. Summary, the test subjects appear in excited states successively from small to large in size, and as time goes by, this excited state becomes more and more obvious. Looking at the notebook in his hand, Senju Mayuki's face turned a little dark. It's not that he is dissatisfied with the content of the record, but he didn't expect this silly girl to actually stay here all night. Go to sleep and leave the rest to me. In the end, it was still my own mistake. And seeing that she was obviously taking the initiative to help him, but she still seemed a little helpless because she was worried that she would be angry. It would be really inhumane to just get angry at her without caring at this time. He good. The uneasy expression turned into a little pride in a second, and then Kwan returned to the house with his little hands behind his back. He sighed helplessly, and then turned his attention to Brother G, who was already so excited that he started to clack and dance. Is there something wrong with the size starting from small to large? Look at the local dogs who are equally excited, but show no signs of aggressive behavior. In other words, the larger the individual, the longer it will be affected by life energy and the less impact it will have on its temperament, or. With such doubts, Senju Mayuki began to knock down the test subjects one by one, and then used medical chakra to carefully observe and compare the cells in their bodies. Finally, it was found that the cell functions of these test subjects had been strengthened to a certain extent, but at the same time, the rate of cell division had also been significantly accelerated, and energy consumption had also increased sharply. 10:25, the excitement of the native chicken reaches its peak, and it only cares about fighting with its own kind, and is no longer afraid of humans. 12:30, the rabbit group reached its peak, and 2 male rabbits collapsed. 1500 hours, 4 native dogs swung their tails and flew into the air. They were obviously extremely excited, but there were no signs of aggression. At this point, it has basically been determined that the impact of those life energy reagents on a living body is most likely related to the size or brain development of the living body. But this data alone is not enough. because what he wants is a healthy Kurama Yakumo, not a short-lived ghost. According to the current situation of the cells in the test subject, the state they are showing now is more like an athlete who has taken 20 kilograms of stimulants. It is an overdraft of his own energy, and he is forcibly strong. In fact, he cannot last long at all. Chapter 108 Quick Frozen Express. The facts turned out to be exactly what he expected. Except for the 2 roosters, who died in the fight in the afternoon of the next day, the remaining hens and rabbits did not last until late at night, and died suddenly one after another due to energy exhaustion. As for the 4 local dogs, after midnight, they also began to have varying degrees of convulsions and lethargy. Although it's not serious enough to kill me, I'm still foaming at the mouth, taking in less air than out, as if I'm going to die in the next second really. All test objects were inspected again. In all native chickens and rabbits, almost all the cells in their bodies have dried up and shrunk. In comparison, the situation of the native dog is slightly better, but the previously strong tendon meat has basically disappeared. Apparently, in just one day, the stored energy was completely squeezed out by those strengthened cells. TSK, this effect is a bit scary, but the people in Tonica village use water from this lake for food and drink every day. Why are they okay? Special physique, or is it because of the concentration? Speaking of which, the difference between 1000 liters and 10 milliliters is indeed a bit big. It seems that it cannot be taken orally, or you can also consider diluting the solution some more. Otherwise, are you afraid of the bald lolly who is obviously only 4 years old and already has a haggard complexion? Looking at the corpses in the pen, Kurama Yunhei couldn't help but nodded deeply. I cried. Brother, are you really a medical ninja? Why do I feel now? If I give Yakumo to him, it always feels like I'm harming my girl. We will bring over another batch of test subjects tomorrow. This time only local dogs will do. I want to try using precise penetration to see what kind of effect it will have if this energy is directly injected into the internal organs. It seems now that experimental data on small animals are of little reference significance to humans, so we might as well not bother with that anymore. Moreover, the cackling dance of a group of chickens at night really affects sleep well. Leave it to me. Although such thoughts flashed through his mind just now, Kurama Runkei was actually very pleased with his serious attitude. Doesn't taking such trouble to conduct experiments just show that he really values Yakumo's health and treatment effects? As long as it's good for Yakumo's body, he's just a chicken and a dog, and he can satisfy him as much as he wants, just not short of money. With this mentality, the uncle didn't even bother to eat that night, and went directly to Yechan village with the village chief of Tonica village. There are only a few households in Tonica village that keep dogs, and after seeing the miserable condition of the experimental dogs, the remaining households are unwilling to sell them anymore. I had no choice but to listen to the village chief. I heard from him that Yechan village on the other side of the pipeline is larger and has more residents with dogs. Dang, excuse me. There was not much entertainment at night in such a remote independent village, so after dinner and chatting for a while, Senju Mayuki and the other 2 went back to their rooms to prepare for bed. But he didn't expect that he had just entered the house, and before he had time to take off his clothes, he suddenly heard someone knocking on his door again, accompanied by an obviously reserved voice. Ninja-sama, are you asleep? Hearing this voice, Senju Mayuki was stunned for a moment, and then remembered that the voice seemed to be that of a girl named Sissel. Not yet, the door is not closed, come in and talk about anything. There was a slight silence outside the door, and I seemed to hear the sound of deep breathing. Then I saw the door handle turning slightly, and then I saw 1, 2. The figure walked in. You are this? The visitors are Sissel and Doc, but they are dressed like this, tights, wooden knife, wooden pune? After hearing his question, the 2 of them lowered their heads and looked a little embarrassed. However, after Sissel pushed him several times and even kicked him, Doc did not fart on his own initiative. In desperation, he had no choice but to muster up the courage to look at Senju Mayuki and said, Ninja-sama, we want to learn fighting from you. Can you be our teacher? Senju Mayuki was really surprised this time. You can't see that I'm younger than you, right? Become my teacher or something. Of course. Now that he had spoken, Sissel simply broke the pot and stopped coyly. But it is precisely because we know this that we have a deeper understanding of your power. Can I ask why? After all, you seem to have a security force here. If it's just for self-protection, you can definitely join them different. As soon as he finished speaking, Sissel immediately replied, the guard troops are only for self-protection, and actually have no combat effectiveness at all. And I heard from the village chief uncle that basically every time a bad guy comes to cause trouble, it is the ninjas of Konoha village who come to help us in the end. Well, it's understandable to say that. It's equivalent to directly connecting with end customers, and there is no need to let middlemen make the difference. Then do your parents know your decision? Saying this, Senju Mayuki's face suddenly became serious. What you must know is that the world of ninjas is very dangerous because they belong to different countries, and someone may kill you at any time when you are walking outside. As he spoke, he observed the facial expressions of the two people. And in the world of ninjas, once there is a master-disciple relationship, it cannot be erased or severed for a lifetime. Those who betray the teacher have no other way except death. Those who can counter-kill the teacher don't count even so. Do you still want to stick to your idea? Of course. Sissel's answer was without any hesitation. Compared with her, Doc's performance was much inferior. It's not that he didn't have that kind of courage, but he seemed to have a lot of worries. Seeing him like this, Sissel's eyes moved inexplicably, but then he quickly pulled Doc behind him, and then said to Senju Mayuki, actually, I'm the only one who is apprenticed today. He was just brought over by me to embolden him. Sissel, you. Doc's face was obviously shocked, and he breathed a little, imperceptibly, a sigh of relief. What's wrong with me? I am right. With such a gentle temperament, you can't be a ninja. You should stay in the village to take care of the elderly and children. From now on, I'm the only one who can ensure the safety of the village. Doc was immediately speechless. Although his face was sad, under Senju Mayuki's questioning eyes, he finally lowered his gaze with strong unwillingness and loneliness. In this case looking at Sissel, who straightened his back and showed off his energy as much as possible. What Senju Mayuki was thinking in his heart was, although not from the same country, but since Jiraiya can travel around the world and sow seeds of hope everywhere, he must be very popular in front of the third generation old man. As long as he doesn't go too far, he shouldn't be far behind. And since I want to develop this huge pit into a base, then I definitely can't rely on a stupid Yikang. Otherwise she will be taken to the ditch someday. According to the remaining scenes in my memory, Sissel's performance more than 10 years later seems to be quite good. At least there is nothing to say in terms of perseverance and character. Otherwise the animation team would not have spent so much time. Pictures describe their stories. Then let's recruit a subordinate to the stupid warehouse first. With a local as an assistant, I believe many things will be much easier. And listening to what Sissel means, she actually doesn't have much ambition. She just hopes to become strong and protect the village. That's enough, which is also suitable for a subordinate that. Just as he was about to nod in agreement, but before the word okay could be uttered, Senju Mayuki suddenly felt dizzy again, and this time it was much more serious than the day he came, and he almost fell straight down. What the hell happened to you? It is a spring. Senju Mayuki did not answer, but managed to stand up straight with her help. However, her face turned pale at some point, and cold sweat began to appear on her forehead. Hiss. After closing his eyes for almost 3 minutes, I saw that his face gradually returned to normal. Let's talk about becoming a disciple tomorrow. Yes it should be. Sissel seemed to be frightened by the scene just now, with obvious worry on his face. Old ninja-sama, your body. It's nothing. It's a good thing for me. Don't worry. Oh. Then, ninja-sama, good night. Sissel nodded after hearing this, and then apologized, pulling Doc away who didn't know how to deal with himself. After the two left, facing Izumi's questioning gaze, Senju Mayuki just smiled silently, and then looked at the lake outside the window with a profound look. The clone and the quick frozen warehouse are finally here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109. How can a person be so big? It's so late. What are you doing out there? After Doc and Sissel left, they saw that Senju Mayuki suddenly became energetic and wanted to go out. Kwan immediately followed her without hesitation. Well, you'll find out if you come with me. With the current favorability level, I felt that there was no need to hide many things from her. Anyway, she was basically welded to death in the bowl and could not escape and would not run away, so she did not stop Kwan from following her. After going out, I saw Doka and Sissel not far away. It seemed like Doka was persuading Sissel. However, at this time, Senju Mayuki could not think about their matters for the time being. She just glanced at them and quickly walked towards the largest ancient tree by the lake. What on earth are you doing? It's so late. The moon was pretty good tonight. Even though there was no light, when we got farther away from the village, the visibility was still barely adequate due to the reflection of the lake water. Following him all the way, although he couldn't help but grunt every time he walked up to the spring, his pace never slowed down. It wasn't until the two of them walked around the lake to the huge tree that they suddenly heard Senju Mayuki's slightly relaxed voice arrive. Kwan raised his head in confusion. When he saw his straight gaze, he couldn't help but follow his line of sight and look over. Under the shadow of the tree crown, there seems to be something like a person lying flat on a huge tree stump. With deep doubts and surprises, Kwan slowly approached him and looked at him carefully under the bright moonlight. Then he suddenly leaned back tactically. Isn't this the fox, Jounin from Tsunade village? Why is she here? And turned into this, like this? Shocking for sure. But then came more doubts. No wonder this guy suddenly laughed so obscenely and ran out in the middle of the night without sleeping. It turned out to be a private meeting. It seems a bit miserable to say this, it's all cold. Does this guy have some weird quirks? Exclamation mark. Spring. While speaking, Senju Mayuki also leaned forward. She looked at Yi Kang, who was still in the frozen state and still maintained her last posture before freezing, as well as the kunai and shurikens on her body that had hid important positions that the clone did not dare to take off at the time. TSK, he sighed slightly. Fortunately, Yi Kang has become hardened under the extremely low temperature, and there will be no more accidents such as heavy bleeding. As long as he is careful, this state will be easier to operate. So, while carefully taking down the hidden weapons, he shared his world with Izumi for the first time. What do you think of this, Yi Kang? Looking at his actions, Kwan, who didn't know whether to help or get out of the way, couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. However, after looking at the bloody sleeping beauty and his serious attitude, he couldn't help but curl his lips. How can a girl like me be qualified to judge other people? She looks so good looking, has a nice voice, is so strong, and Senju Mayuki, who had just entered a state of concentration, subconsciously said, there is more. Nothing. Although he said this, Kwan's eyes actually scanned the two towering peaks of Yi Kang again and again. There are two such big burdens, really. How can a person be so big? Isn't she afraid of breaking her neck? She didn't have time to notice the little Jujutsu and Juzenai in her heart. He just continued to talk according to his own thoughts. You said, what do you think? If Yi Kang can be turned into us, not an ally of Tsunade village, not Konoha village, but a group with the same goal as me? This time Zayakun is really weird. This guy didn't drink either, so why is he talking nonsense? I'm the hero of Sand Hidden Village. Okay, how can it be like what you said? What if I told you, come and help lift her and turn her over? The two of them worked together to carefully turn Yi Kang over, revealing the twisted hidden weapon that had been pressed on his back. Oh, there are so many big and deep wounds. The heart, liver, spleen, stomach and lungs have all been punctured. This is... He sighed again and shook his head and then carefully started to dismantle it again. At the same time, he said a sentence in an understatement that shocked Kwan. What if I told you that the reason she became like this was because she was betrayed by the senior management of Tsunade village? Kwan was speechless for a moment, and it took him a long time to say, Tsunade village is a loyal ally of Konoha village. As an ally, we should not have such thoughts, let alone slander us like this. Slander? When Senju Mayuki heard this, she couldn't help but look at Kwan with a stupid look, and then motioned her to look at the hidden weapon she was holding in her hand in the location of the hit. Look, this Tsunade that penetrates the heart is obviously the most fatal blow. You should have no problem with me saying that, right? After hearing what he said, Quan couldn't help but look at Yi Kang's body carefully again, and then nodded thoughtfully. Then imagine, not to mention elite Jonins like Yi Kang, even people at your level and mine, if they were not defenseless, would they be so directly injured to a vital part like the heart? After all, he is an elite. After hearing what he said, Quan immediately came to his senses. As a girl, if it were her, unless it was her mother or this stinky guy in front of her, anyone approaching from behind to this extent would definitely arouse her vigilance and resistance. So it must be the same for Yi Kang. Unless the other person is a very close or trustworthy person, how can he be stabbed in the back? Exclamation mark. When I first got here that day, didn't you ask me why I suddenly felt dizzy? After removing all the hidden weapons, looking at the shocking wounds, and coagulated blood on Yi Kang's back, Senju Mayuki used medical chakra to examine him, and said proactively without waiting for Izumi to ask, that's because my preset clone was triggered, so part of my mental power was taken away, including the time in the room just now. It was also because the clone self-cancelled the transmission after sending Yi Kang here. It's caused by excessive fatigue. Nima, those grandsons in Hidden Mist Village are real dogs. To be able to deal with such a heavy hand on such a beautiful girl, damn it, my whole body was almost deflated. Preset, clone. Sent here? Sister, aren't we talking about something serious now? Is your focus slightly off track? Well, there are not too many details in the memories sent back by the clone. I only know that she was attacked in Kirigakure village, and those who attacked her were also ninjas from Kirigakure village. Because the injury was too serious, the clone did not dare to fight with the guys from Hidden Mist village. He froze her directly, then rushed out of the siege, and sent her here without even daring to pause. As for more specific matters, we will have to wait until she is revived to find out. Chapter 110. If you can't practice to death, practice to death. Just saying that, in fact, Senju Mayuki really felt a little confused about how to deal with Yi Kang's current situation. The entire heart was pierced, the organs in the lower back were damaged to varying degrees, and there were countless ruptured blood vessels. If she was thawed now, she would most likely kick her legs and burp before he could take action. In other words, I have to treat her while maintaining a frozen state. And at least all serious injuries must be cured before it can be thawed. TSK, this special code is not something that ordinary medical ninjas can play, and there is a high probability that he is the only one in the whole world who dares to come up with such an idea. Do you have any pure unique skills? Alas, another difficult patient. He shook his head helplessly, then said to Quan, go back, and then used his power to lift Yi Kang's body and walk towards the inn. Where are you taking her? Quan hesitated for a moment and then followed, but his voice was a little grunty. In my room, of course. At this point, Senju Mayuki suddenly turned around and said to her in a very serious tone, remember not to tell anyone about Yi Kang's affairs. This matter is only known to the two of us. Do you understand? Why? Can't Takuma tell you too? Senju Mayuki nodded seriously. To everyone in the outside world, Yi Kang is already a dead person, so the fewer people who know about her, the better. Otherwise it is likely to cause unimaginable trouble. Then, why did you tell me? You clearly didn't want me to follow you when you went out. When he asked this question, Quan's face turned slightly red, and his eyes were a little dodgy, not daring to look directly at him. Fortunately, you can't see it at all under this kind of light, but the obviously emotional humming just now has disappeared without a trace. Why tell you? Senju Mayuki looked a little surprised, as if she had never thought about this problem before. Do you even need to ask? Of course it's because in the entire Konoha village, we are the two of us who trust each other the most. Upon hearing these words, Quan's ears suddenly turned red, as if they were about to be cooked, and his movements began to twist. And because it requires long and delicate operations, I can only hide Yi Kang in my house. The originally shy expression suddenly showed a hint of doubt. And you are never polite to me. The door of my room is just like a decoration in front of you. The shyness disappeared instantly, and his expression began to solidify. So I can't hide it, even if I want to. so I just don't bother with that. Rather than being discovered by you later, when I break in, I might as well just confess to you from the beginning. Oh. Walking back with an expressionless face and an unswerving gaze. It's just that the visibility is not very good. I seem to have stepped on something when I passed by. Sai, what should you do if you encounter obstacles on the way forward? Of course he kicked it away hard. Hiss. Good night. Kwan's voice didn't waver at all, nor did he look back, not even a pause. He looked at her back with confusion, then looked at his right leg that was swollen from being kicked. Forget it. Good men don't fight with women. I don't know what women are thinking. Night. I hope you have nightmares all night today. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next morning, Kurama Yunhei's business of collecting dogs from Yichan village obviously did not go well, and he has not come back until now. So when Sissel came over again, Senju Zenai who didn't refuse anymore. I told you about the dangers of ninjas yesterday. Since you still insist, I won't do any more persuasion. Outside the inn, with many friends watching with envy or confusion, Sissel gave Senju Mayuki a student salute very firmly and simply. It's just a very respectful bow. Amidst the booing from the surrounding children and even Kurama Yakumo, Senju Mayuki gave her own greeting gift with a bit of embarrassment. A Konoha village standard kyune. The gift was a little shabby, but because it was a gift from a teacher to a student, it had extraordinary meaning to Sissel. Because this kyune means that she has been recognized by a ninja, and she has truly entered the world of ninjas. Thank you, teacher. With great excitement, he took the kyune with both hands. After finishing it, he bent down and bowed deeply. Teacher, please rest assured that I will definitely work hard in the future and will not let you down. Woo-woo. When the onlookers saw this scene, they all howled with excitement, and some girls with delicate emotions were even moved to tears. Come on, Sissel. We believe you can become an outstanding ninja. Of course, where there are people, there are rivers and lakes, and Sissel's character also determines that she cannot be everyone's pistachio. So seeing how beautiful she was, some children who usually didn't deal with her began to say some useless words, this and that. There are also some who are envious and jealous. They obviously want to muster up the courage to steal the limelight, but when they hear ninjas can lose their lives at any time, they give up. Because of fear. In a word, the whole children are innocent thing is all bullshit. The evil of children truly comes from their nature. Actually, ninjas are also ordinary people. The difference is that, after becoming a ninja, you must undergo very cruel and extreme training, so that you can continue to advance in the world of ninjas without being left behind by everyone, or even become a dispensable soldier, because these basic things are not a secret. After the apprenticeship ceremony was completed, Senju Mayuki did not drive away the young audience, and let them listen, if they wanted to listen. If he can inspire one or two people who are willing to work hard, it will be more beneficial to his base, right? To be honest, I don't know whether you are lucky or unlucky to choose to be my student. Amidst the doubts of Sissel and the other children, Senju Mayuki continued to talk, because theoretically, within the same period of time, the greater the training volume, the greater the improvement will be, but in fact, the human body has its limits. Once a certain level of fatigue is exceeded, various types of damage will be caused to the body. This kind of damage is not very obvious when they are young, but once a ninja reaches the age of 30, various pathologies and symptoms will appear. It can also be said that when these symptoms appear, the ninja's life has basically come to an end. Oh. He didn't care whether the other children really understood or pretended to understand. He just looked at Sissel. When he saw her lowering her head and pondering for a while, and then her eyes gradually became clear, he continued, if you change to another responsible ninja to be your teacher, for the sake of your body, he will definitely carefully develop a most suitable training plan, based on your physical condition and endurance, so as not to affect your growth in the future. I'm different, because I'm a medical ninja. And an excellent medical ninja. No matter how injured you are, as long as your brain is not dead, I can save you, even if your heart stops beating. So, having said this, Senju Mayuki smiled at Sissel, and did not continue. But that's enough. Anyone who thinks quickly will still be unable to understand what he wants to express. This guy's ready to train Sissel to death. Chapter 111, The Future of 8 Clouds. The radius of this giant pit is about 5,000 meters, and one lap is almost 30 kilometers. Since you are just getting started, I won't give you a time limit. When you finish a lap, it will end. Go ahead. Although she is a girl, Sissel is older than the teacher Senju Mayuki, and her physical development is approaching maturity. So when making a training plan for her, Senju Mayuki really had no sympathy for her at all. Run laps in the morning to practice endurance, eat when you finish running, take a break after eating, and continue swimming in the afternoon. Speaking of which, it is actually a supplement to endurance training. Girls don't all like the pimples on their arms and legs. Swimming training in the afternoon can not only consolidate the results of endurance training, but also help shape the body. Moreover, these lakes are also rich in life energy. Even if you accidentally choke on a few mouthfuls while swimming, there will be no serious consequences. It can be said that one stone can do more, isn't it? Fortunately, Sissel has a lively and active temperament, and he already had a certain training foundation before the arrival of Senju Mayuki and others, so the lap training in the morning was difficult, but it was not too tiring. I can't bear it when swimming. As for Senju Mayuki, apart from treating Yakira at night, most of the daytime was spent on clinical trials on test subjects. The former requires patience and meticulousness, and it cannot be exposed. The latter requires time to carefully observe the reaction of the test subject. In short, it is a very energy consuming thing, and if you are sloppy or careless, all your efforts will be wasted. The painting is very good under the giant tree by the lake. Looking at the increasingly rich colors on the drawing board, Senju Mayuki, who had been standing quietly behind Kurumi Yakumo, finally couldn't help but praise. Although I don't know any painting skills, I can still see that you are indeed very talented in this area. Hearing his straightforward praise, Kurumi Yakumo couldn't help but responded shyly, "Thank you, brother Zenyu. Actually, I don't know what talent or talent is not. I just draw whatever comes to my mind. It's been a week since I've been here, but Senju Mayuki's experiments haven't been able to get the desired results. Although I know in my heart that this brother has worked very hard, there is really nothing for entertainment in such a remote village." So under Senju Mayon's guidance, intentionally or unintentionally, Kurumi finally nodded in agreement and picked out some simple family illusions for Kurumi Yakumo to practice first. I don't know if it's due to his nature or the influence of the plot direction. In short, when starting his own Jinjutsu path, Kurumi Yakumo almost without hesitation chose the drawing board as his Jinjutsu life. Looking at Kurumi Yakumo, who was shy for a moment, but then quickly regained his composure and continued to indulge in painting, the monster known as selflessness flashed through Senju Mayuki's mind inadvertently. "Yakumo, okay?" Kurumi Yakumo tilted his chin in his direction, but his eyes did not leave his drawing board and pen. He just used this action to indicate that he was listening. "Many people only see you at your young age, but I know that as the next generation successor of the Kuruma family, you are actually much more mature mentally than your peers, and you have also endured unimaginable pressure." After hearing these words, Kurumi Yakumo's painting gradually slowed down, and his originally peaceful expression also showed a slight depression. "Yakumo." Kurumi Yakumo put down his paintbrush this time and looked at Senju Mayetsu with a pair of smart eyes, as if he could speak. "Have you ever thought about your future?" After a pause, he seemed to feel that the question was a bit too broad, so he followed up with another sentence. "Do you have any ideas for the future of your life? For example, becoming a great female ninja like Tsunade-sama, or trying to become Hokage and pushing or changing something according to your own wishes? Or do you just want to be a ninja, an excellent Jinjutsu ninja Hokage?" Me. When talking about this topic, even though her mind is far beyond the average of her peers, Kurumi Yakumo couldn't help but have a burst of light and longing in her eyes, but soon, she shook her head slightly. "It's not like you don't know what my body is like, and you don't know about this treatment either. What's the use of talking about those distant things now? You can rest assured about this." Senju Mayuki had a confident smile on her face, "Not to mention that I have roughly figured out the characteristics of these life energies. Even if I can't, I will have Tsunade-sama above me. Anyway, I guarantee that your body will be able to return to normal in a year and a half at most. To the same extent as human beings." looking at Senju Mayuki, who had a confident smile on his face and didn't look like he was lying to a child. A look of surprise gradually appeared on Kuramayakumo's face. Why? We obviously didn't know each other before. Why are you so persistent in curing my disease? Nonsense. Of course it's because young Lalita are easy to flirt with, because you have high enough potential. Because I believe that once your body returns to normal, your talent and growth rate will definitely far exceed that of many so-called geniuses. Coupled with the inheritance of illusions from the Kurama clan, I believe it won't be long before you become another member of the Leaf Village. A genius leader what? What kind of genius? Or something? Kuramayakumo, who has not completely gotten rid of his childish nature, was obviously a little dizzy from the twists and turns of the colorful rainbow farts, and couldn't help but mumbled a little shyly, "Don't think I don't know about you in front of you. What kind of person must dare to call himself a genius? That's not important." Having said this, Senju Mayuki waved her hand directly, then looked at Kuramayakumo with encouraging eyes and said, "What I asked just now is actually to invite you to be my assistant before else, and to do things with me that ordinary people can't imagine or have access to." Kuramayakumo blinked after hearing this. Help? What do you mean? And what are you talking about that ordinary people can't imagine? You don't need to ask about this for now, because some things are not clear enough. Even if I try to explain it to you, you will only become more confused after a rough explanation, Senju Mayuki immediately assured. But you can rest assured that what I want you to help me is definitely not a bad thing, and once it succeeds, the entire Kurama clan will be proud of you. This will become clear to you when you grow up and understand it yourself. I understand. Oh. She didn't know whether it was his sincerity that impressed her, or the fact that Kuramayakumo was not very good at rejecting people now. In short, after listening to Senju Mayuki's speech, she just nodded in understanding, and then replied with a little light in her eyes, "Okay then, anyway, what my body will look like in the end is all in your control. Even if I refuse, you will definitely find a way to make me agree." Hetty, where did you say you went? How could it be nonsense? Isn't it? Who would really give up on such a capable Lalita? Accept your fate. Your future has been determined from the day we first met. Chapter 112. Old layer cake. Experimental subject No. Silently, he used medical chakra to scan the body of No. native dog, and then Senju Mayuki said after careful consideration, "Dialysis has stopped, but with nutritional supplementation, there are no signs of improvement." The clerk next to him, Kwan, immediately entered the state. "Russell, no 13 days, the muscle dissolution stopped, and after receiving sufficient nutrition, the cells in the test subject showed no signs of recovery." Above this paragraph, there are many key words, such as, no 3 test subject, injected with number 3 solution. 10 milliliters extracted from every 100 liters of lake water, or, no 0 test subject, injected with number 0 solution. 10 milliliters extracted from every 1000 liters of lake water, has died etc. As for the solution label, in fact, after the first batch of dogs couldn't hold on and all died, Senju Mayuki defined the concentration of the solution in that experiment as deadly number 0. Afterwards, in order to weaken its effectiveness, he extracted 800 liters of the number 1 solution, and 600, 400, 200, and 100 liters of number 2, number 3, and number 5 solutions in that order, and conducted micro-injection experiments on the internal organs of 5 local dog test subjects. It's not that he was reluctant to use more test subjects, but Kurama-Runkei's dog collection operation had little effect. Judging from the current experimental results, number 1, number 2, and the number 3 solution that has just been tested are not safe for use on humans in Senju Mayuki's opinion. After all, the person who is going to undergo the experiment is the good Zio helper, Luo Lee, whom I managed to fool. Number 4. After a pause, I finally heard the voice of Senju Mayuki with some joy. The organs that received the injection have been confirmed to have stopped strengthening, and the cells in the body still have not dissolved. Ashasha's handwriting suddenly broke, and then she heard Kwan's equally happy voice. Does this mean that solution number 4 has met the requirements? Theoretically, this is correct. As he spoke, he looked at the last dog, hesitated for a moment, and then walked over and put it down. For the sake of safety, let's observe it for a few more days. Oh no. The organs that received the injection still appear to be only slightly strengthened. It seems that when the concentration of the solution is diluted to a certain level, the effectiveness of its catalytic cells will drop off a cliff at the level of number 5. Even in the form of direct injection, it can barely play a role in refreshing the mind. Maybe we can consider making number 5 a basic version of the physical strengthening potion. Hey, are you afraid of knocking on the little blue bottle in the world of Naruto? After that, after another 5 days of continuous observation, when it was discovered that the number 4 native dog was getting more and more vigorous, and the cells in the body still did not have any negative symptoms, in the expectation of all the staff, Senju Mayuki finally announced forcefully, "Solution number 4 is ready for use." Yeah. Teacher, you are great. After nearly a month of contact, and with the bonus of being a student of Senju Mayuki, Cecil is now becoming more and more familiar with these people in Konoha village, and his speech and behavior are no longer the same as at the beginning. They all reveal lack of confidence and restraint besides the most active Cecil. The one who showed the most excitement was Kurama. After all, Kurama Yakumo is the hope of the whole village. No, the whole clan. He couldn't help it before, but now he hears that Yakumo's body finally has the dawn of hope. How can he not be excited? In this case, let's proceed without further delay. While speaking, Senju Mayuki blinked at Kurama Yakumo without leaving any trace. Okay, let's get started. After all, it's been out for so long. If it takes too long, Lord Hokage will definitely be unhappy. Of course, Kurama was the first to raise his hands in approval. Even looking at him like that, if he didn't really know how to do it, he would have wanted to push Senju Mayuki away who doesn't move quickly enough, and started to operate it. Although he felt a little shy and a little irritated by Senju Mayuki's obscure wink, seeing that the atmosphere had reached this point, Kurama Yakumo couldn't show any abnormality, so he could only nod it slightly. So the group immediately got busy. Those who clean the room, those who spray dust, those who prepare energy solutions, those who watch the excitement, those who quietly scan back and forth between patients and doctors. 2 hours later, in the temporarily cleared operating room, Senju Mayuki was playing with the reagents on the tray while looking at Kurama Yakumo, who was lying on the bed and seemed to be a little nervous because of this atmosphere. Relax, don't be nervous, trust me. I don't know if it was his calmness that gave her courage or some other reason. In short, after hearing his words, Kurama Yakumo, whose hands and feet were a little numb due to the surgery that was related to his life, suddenly gradually relaxed. Then, I'll start. After saying this, Senju Mayuki immediately regained his serious expression and then took out a 50ml bottle of number 4 solution from the tray next to him. Infiltration and injection into the heart. Although she is just a little girl, her size and endurance should not be any worse than that of a native dog, right? 2 milliliters. Opening the reagent stopper with one hand, he immediately focused all his attention on the solution in the test tube. 2 milliliters. 0.2 milliliters. His eyes were fixed on the surface of the solution, and his free right hand was used to separate 2 milliliters from the test tube little by little. For the sake of efficacy, I don't want to lose even 1 point, and for the safety of Kurama Yakumo, I must not lose even 1 cent. After a sufficient amount was separated, Senju Mayuki immediately used her ability to fix the 2 milliliter solution in the palm of her hand, and then spent a considerable amount of mental energy to decompose it into something close to a gaseous state. The right hand he held up slowly approached Kurama Yakumo's heart. Although nothing could be seen on the surface, only Senju Mayuki himself knew that the nearly vaporized number 4 solution was actually spinning and circling in his palm. When his right hand approached the limit and stopped, Senju Mayuki immediately took a deep breath again, and then focused his eyes, using more mental power, to wrap the nearly vaporized number 4 solution and seep downward into Kurama 8. In Yun's body, skin, flesh, thoracic vertebrae, finally arrived at the slightly depressed heart. However, this is not the end. After all, you have chosen the future with your own hands. Of course, you can't just disperse and let go at this point, like you would a test subject dog. In order to ensure the efficacy, he decided to personally control the gaseous solution to moisturize the entire heart from the inside out. Sister brother, I have worked so hard for you. You must never let your brother down in the future. After almost 10 minutes, the entire heart infiltration work was completely completed, and at this time, Senju Mayuki's face, who continued to output mental power, began to turn slightly pale. Hiss. Taking a long deep breath. Continue. Inject 2 milliliters into the stomach by infiltration. Another 10 minutes. Haha. Continue. Liver. Continue. Exclamation mark. Kidney. Continue. Spleen. Continue. How many types of internal organs are there in the human body? Regarding this issue, Senju Mayuki, who persisted until the end, no longer had any extra brain to think about. He only knew that when he saw in his mental perception that all the weak internal organs in Kurama-Yakumo's body had become wet, before he could be happy, his eyes went dark, and he fell backwards. Fool. A very thin and fragrant embrace caught him steadily. In the haze, he only remembered someone wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, which seemed to be accompanied by a vague complaint. What an idiot. Heh, you know what, the bullies. I'm in the atmosphere. Chapter 113, The Armistice of Konoha Kumogakuya. Hurry up, speed up, speed up. On top of the giant pit, 2 figures, one small and one smaller, were running along the edge, huffing and puffing. Behind them, Senju Mayuki kept a distance that was neither too close nor too far away. While observing the status of the two of them, he shouted to the front from time to time, "The day I treated Kurama-Yakumo, I was so exhausted that I collapsed. But the Senju clan was indeed very good. I just went back to the house and lay on the bed to rest for an afternoon and basically recovered. And after waking up, things were exactly as he expected, although doctors should treat patients. Kurama-Yakumo at that time. No, it should be said that the eldest lady of the Kurama clan has always been a kind-hearted girl. When she saw that Zenai's brother was so exhausted from treating her illness, she, who had been educated by a large family since she was a child, was immediately shocked and moved. Because of this, when Quan frowned at her, because of this incident, this little lolly who had never been willing to show her timidity lowered her head willingly for the first time. As for what happens next, it's simple. Logically speaking, after performing the surgery on Kurama-Yakumo, this mission has basically been completed. According to normal procedures, they should have returned to Konoha to report after Senju Shinzuki woke up. But the problem is that the treatment progress for Yikang is a little slower than expected. Until now, it can be said that less than half of the injuries in her body have been cured. In order to save her life, she must continue to remain frozen until the serious injuries in her body are completely healed. But this will create a very embarrassing situation. Because the body is completely frozen, it is impossible to stimulate the body's self-healing ability, which means that he must rely entirely on his own medical chakra to repair all damaged cells. At least that must be true for those areas that are particularly badly injured. This is such a big job. There are approximately 40 to 60 trillion cells in the human body, and the average diameter of each cell is between 5 to 200 microns. There are nearly 500,000 cells in the heart alone. 50. It's so funny, it's like a joke. Although it is not really necessary to repair every cell. Even so, after working on Yikang every night, Senju Mayuki will be as tired as the third grandson. He feels that, if he continues to do it, he will really have developed the eye of the needle. In other words, he is mentally abnormal otherwise. With this weird treatment method, if it were replaced by any other person, even if Tsunade came in person, there is a high probability that she would have to scratch her head, scratching her head like crazy, so that's it. Anyway, I didn't see any urging from the occasional letters from the third generation old man. Senju Mayuki persuaded Kurama-Ranke on the grounds that people and animals are different. It's best to continue to observe for a while. In fact, what he didn't know was that when he heard what he said, Kurama-Ranke, who was already very satisfied with him despite appearing calm on the surface, was so happy that he burst into tears. It's obvious that it's time to hand in work, and it's obvious that I was so tired yesterday, but I'm still so serious and responsible. Tell me, where can I find such a good man? It is precisely because of this that Kurama Yunhei feels that the idea he has hidden for more than a month is more reliable and feasible. This is a gem. Absolutely bright future, brother. For others, especially Kurama Yakumo, it doesn't matter. When they go back, she is not a pampered young lady who can wear clothes and open her mouth. There is no difference between home and here, just observe. Just observe. Anyway, she could clearly feel that her physical condition had indeed improved. So early the next morning, when Senju Mayuki was preparing Sissel for training as usual, this little lolly who was less than the lower edge of Sissel's chest actually came over and said hope to join their training, although it is still a little young now. In the heart of Kurama Yakumo, who is obsessed with family glory, every minute and second he wastes now is a blasphemy to those clansmen who have great expectations for him. What's more, why slow down? If it doesn't work, just say it. Don't worry, I won't blame you. And I also have delicious rice balls and delicious spring water here. Just stop and I can let you eat your fill. Listening to the voice that came from behind from time to time, Kurama Yakumo couldn't help but flash back to the conversation at the lakeside at noon that day, and every time she recalled it, she strengthened her determination in the midst of extreme exhaustion. What's more, we still have such an agreement. Absolutely not. Never give up. I must work harder and never let the honor of the Kurama clan be shamed by me. So that's it. 1 day, 2 days, a week, half a month. From the beginning, when I started panting violently after running less than a kilometer, to the persistence that I would rather be tired to the point of coma than to give up, plus the supplement of the physique strengthening potion specially made by Senju Mayuki. Gradually, Kurama Yakumo's modified internal organs began to exert their strength, and his physical fitness immediately increased dramatically. In the end, she didn't even need Senju Mayuki to cheer her up from behind. She was able to finish a lap on her own. Although it took a long time, even though after finishing the run, I almost felt like I was dying. But being able to complete this nearly 30-kilometer lap was enough to surprise everyone after all. Kurama Yakumo is only a little over 4 years old now, and the fact that he has short legs and short steps cannot be ignored. Darn, please come in. When the door opened, Senju Mayuki looked up and saw an expressionless Izumi and affirmed, there is a letter from Hokage-sama. Senpai asked you to come over. Boom. Hey big head, the day after Kurama Yakumo's surgery, she looked like this. In fact, Senju Mayuki knew that the reason why Izumi was like this was just because he was too worried about himself. In addition, during this period of time, he has to train 2 female dolls during the day, and he has to work on Yikang until he feels dizzy at night. No matter how much attention he pays, he will inevitably ignore her. Hey, it's difficult to deal with too many women, Senior Yunhei. Well, here you are. Kurama Yunhei nodded, his expression a little serious. Lord Hokage has sent a letter, and this time is different from the previous condolences. Looking at the children in the room, who immediately became serious, Kurama Yunhei couldn't help but slightly again, and then took out a half palm-sized note and handed it to Senju Mayuki. The war between Konoha and Cloud Hidden Village has finally come to an end. Lord Hokage said in the letter that the envoy from Cloud Hidden Village will arrive in Konoha Village in about a week to sign an armistice agreement between the two parties. Senju Mayuki was stunned when he heard this, and then realized that today was already late December, the armistice of Kumogakure, a grand celebration in Konoha, and Hinata's birthday. Then he quickly read the contents of the letter with a few glances, and then handed the letter to Izumi and Hinata to Kuma beside him. Although the old man said in the letter that we don't have to worry about these things, but if we don't watch such a far-reaching plot, I always feel a little unhappy. But the problem is that Yikang's treatment has just reached a critical period. Judging from the current progress, it will only take a week to 10 days to activate her safely. If he left her behind at this time and went to watch a movie for excitement, wouldn't it be that all the hard work he had done every night was in vain? Chapter 114. Everything is for the reincarnation eye. A sudden heavy snowfall seems to have covered the whole world with silver. Wow, there are so many people. It seems that Konoha Village will be more lively than I imagined. On the road outside Konoha Village, I heard that Konoha was going to hold a grand celebration. Many civilians and businessmen came from all over to watch the excitement. Of course it is. I heard that this war lasted for 3 years, and many ninjas died on both sides. Now that the war has finally come to an end, people who have been depressed for such a long time must celebrate it properly. That's right, after seeing so many people coming to watch the fun, I'm already looking forward to what kind of surprises Konoha village will bring us. That's it. Pedestrians who were strangers to each other gradually got together because of this topic, and they didn't realize that there was a child of half his height in the group at some point. In the end, Senju Mayuki couldn't bear the temptation and secretly ran back to Konoha village alone in the dead of night. Of course, compared with Yikang, he could still tell the difference between the important and the important, so only a clone came back, and the main body still stayed in Tonika village. It's just that after the clone came back, he didn't choose to sneak in directly, because he didn't need to think about it to know that on this day, when the village gates are open to welcome guests, the enchantment class and the perception class will definitely be dozens of times more worried than usual. Once he chooses to sneak in that sneaky way, he will most likely be discovered by the barrier team, and finally be sneaked in front of the third generation old man by Anbu or the police force. Wow, it really deserves to be a Konoha village. This gate alone is so majestic and shocking, isn't it? This is the largest village, far beyond what small villages like ours can compare with. When they arrived at the gate of Konoha, several leaders took the initiative to show their identity certificates. And in such a lively and festive day, facing these endless streams of tourists, Konoha really can't check everyone carefully, so they have to loosen the outside and tighten the inside. As long as it's not a gangster or a criminal being arrested, everyone will be allowed to go. It's just a shame for those guys from the police force and Anbue. What's wrong? What are you looking at? Seeing that his companions kept looking back at the teams that had just passed by, Kamizuki Izumo, who had just finished checking another wave, couldn't help but ask, "No?" Gangzati shook his head slowly, but there was still a look of confusion on his face, and he muttered in a low voice, "It shouldn't be. Didn't he go out on a mission? If it were him, he could have gone in directly. Why should he queue at the door with other people's team? Hey, what are you thinking about? Let's get to work." "Oh." He nodded mechanically in response, but while continuing to work, Gangzati's attention was still obviously immersed in his own doubts. Did I really see it wrong? But why do I always feel a little strangely familiar? Asterisk 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 lively. Still lively. As soon as he entered the village, Senju Mayuki could directly feel how enthusiastic the residents of Konoha were about this armistice. In the white snow, every house is decorated with lights, and every street is filled with an endless stream of pedestrians. Even those relatively remote alleys that few people go to on weekdays are decorated with various festive decorations. To be honest, with his current height, it is really unwise to wander around the streets at this time. This street is crowded with people, and if you happen to meet someone with a bad stomach while following someone, that rascal, it's simply hell on earth! Exclamation mark. Fortunately, my ability is ice. After working hard all the way back to her home, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but praise her ability again. Apart from anything else, it is very convenient to sneak in and pick the lock when you forget your key. The next thing to do is wait, because I was not sure exactly what day the guy from Hidden Cloud Village went to kidnap Hinata. I could only choose to return to the village before the night of December 12th. In fact, when he thought about it, at least on Hinata's birthday, that incident wouldn't happen, because he remembered that after Niji was carved as a caged bird, Hyuga Hisashi was punished by his dear brother for showing murderous intent during Hinata's training. Of course, this is just his guess ever. Since someone like him appeared in Konoha village, the world has definitely moved towards a different future. Although I don't think I have enough influence on this kind of thing, the purpose of sneaking back this time is entirely for Hinata, so it's better to be cautious. He has never forgotten the reincarnation eye on the moon, as the Princess White Eye is recognized by the descendants of Otsutsuki Hamura. If possible, he wanted to ensure Hinata's safety no matter what. As for other people, it doesn't have much impact on him, just let it happen. At night, the noisy crowd finally dispersed, and for the clone, after dark was the time when he needed to be careful and vigilant the most. Fortunately, the village has ability limits for the Hyuga clan. In the shadow somewhere outside the Hyuga clan, looking at the slowly falling snowflakes in the sky, Senju Mayuki sighed secretly while extending his mental power in the direction of Hyuga and Haishi's home. Speaking of which, this kind of weather is indeed very convenient for him. As long as he wants, the snowflakes in the sky can become his eyes. It's just that he has been teammates with Hyuga Takuma for so long, and he has already understood the perversion of Byakugan. If it weren't for the agreement that the Hyuga clan is not allowed to turn on their Byakugan outside the clan's territory without any reason, he might not even have a chance to show up at their door now. Oh, found it after much thought, Senju Mayuki felt that when it came to protecting Hinata, we still couldn't place our hopes on the other party would just kidnap, but not harm her according to the original plot. So taking advantage of the good conditions tonight, he easily found Hinata's boudoir. Although doing this is a bit suspicious of starting from 3 years ago, but for the sake of reincarnation, I have no choice but to violate my conscience. As a faint mist dispersed, the clone that was originally hiding in the dark gradually disappeared. A few minutes later, a palm-sized and thin transparent ice piece appeared quietly on the ceiling of Hinata's boudoir, where she was sleeping soundly. Breathe, breathe, breathe. From this perspective, Hinata was lying flat on the quilt with only a small head exposed. Her sleeping posture was very standard and her breathing was gentle. It was obvious from a glance that she was sleeping peacefully. She had no idea that she had become two people. Men's goals. Wow. Such a cute girl will actually become that guy Naruto's wife in the future. What a damn unpredictable life. 9 turns of events waiting is undoubtedly very boring and tasteless, especially when you don't know when the other person will come. So, when she is really bored, Senju Mayuki will occasionally look at Hinata below and let herself go in her mind. Speaking of which, if I keep staring like this, if she turns over and fails to cover her, do I think I have become a spiritual master of Naruto since I was a child? Chat, evil, so damn evil, but fortunately, I know that I'm not doing useless work. The guy from Union Village will definitely come. The difference is just a matter of a few days earlier or a few days later. The dog said, when will the hairy guy come? If you don't come back, my eyes will turn blue. However, amidst his repeated slanders and complaints, there was no sign of any movement until the light came up in the east. Blank, you have to find a way to get out. Otherwise, if you hang around for another day, your brain will really get wet. He carefully withdrew and returned to the house to rest for another day. At night, although it didn't snow again, because we already had the exact location, we could choose a location closer this time. In general, it was not more difficult to get in than yesterday only. He was so bored that night that he studied how many times Hinata breathed in 1 minute and how long it took for her to turn over, but he still didn't wait for that guy from Hidden Cloud Village. The third night, the fourth night, until night 5. It wasn't until Senju Mayuki even began to wonder if there was something wrong with her memory that she finally felt a sudden vibration on the ceiling. Shio. You're fucking here. Chapter 115. Changed, but not completely changed. Rustle. An inaudible friction sound slowly moved from the edge of the ceiling towards the middle. If he hadn't felt the slightest vibration while hanging from the ceiling, Senju Mayuki wouldn't have noticed that someone was coming. And for the ninja of Union Village who is full of victory, maybe he never thought in his life that someone would hang himself from the ceiling without sleeping at night. The friction sound above suddenly stopped when it moved to a place about 2 ceilings away from Senju Mayuki. After a slight pause, I saw a ceiling suddenly shake, and then someone quietly came from above. He pulled it out. Although the other party was tiptoeing and moving as gently as possible, in the eyes of Senju Mayuki, who was waiting for him, every move of this guy made him feel like he was watching a clown, until he jumped from the hole in the ceiling and struck a handsome pose. The Kumogakure ninja didn't realize that there was a piece of transparent ice on top of his head, and when he jumped down, it had quickly melted and moved towards him. The top of his head fell swoosh, water droplets cut through the air and fell quickly. However, just when Senju Mayuki felt that this wave had stabilized, he suddenly felt a flash in front of his eyes, and the next second he found that he had fallen onto the tatami with a snap. Why did this guy suddenly get out of the way? Did he find me? Senju Zenai was suddenly surprised The Kyumogakure ninja looked above his head in confusion and couldn't help but wonder what happened to Konoha village. How could such a big house leak? But this thought just flashed through his mind. After all, he was here to do bad things today. When he was so excited, how could he have so much time to think about those trivial things? After taking a look and finding nothing unusual, he turned around and quietly walked to Hinata, who was sleeping soundly, and reached out to pinch the blood vessels in her neck. And behind him, when he saw that the party had not discovered him, the drop of water formed by Senju Mayuki immediately and quietly recovered his figure, and then the moment the other party took action, he condensed an ice needle and shot at him. The Kyumogakure ninja who had just extended his hand halfway suddenly felt chills all over his body. His intuition developed over time in the battlefield, made him give up the target without hesitation and dodge to the side. Damn it. Has it still been discovered? What is it? While taking a defensive posture, Kyumogakure ninja's mind instantly flashed with countless thoughts, and finally all the images were fixed on the water drop just now. No, impossible. The face under the black cloth instantly became ugly. I planned all the actions myself. I didn't tell anyone. How could someone be waiting for me here in advance? Compared with this incredible guess, he is more willing to believe that the other party has the same purpose as him, but the timing chosen by both parties coincides with each other, so the other party will prevent him from taking the results first. When I thought about Kyumogakure ninja like this, I immediately felt that it was reliable. Although the other party was a bit short, he could avoid his alertness and sneak up so close behind him. He would never believe that the other party was really a child. So after quickly weighing the pros and cons, Kyumogakure ninja immediately lowered his voice and said, no matter which village you are from, it will be no good if we two have a dispute here. Once the Hyuga clan notices it, not only will you and I never be able to complete the mission, but we may even have to stay alive. Here. After finishing speaking, he paused and saw that the other party did not make any extra moves. So he thought that he had persuaded the other party and continued to speak out his suggestions quickly. Instead of fighting here, how about we work together to kidnap her out? When we get to a safe place outside, the two of us will fight in a fair battle and the winner will get her. How about that? Ugh. This guy turned out to think that I was a guy from other villages who had the same purpose as him. How about it? The Kyumogakure ninja's voice was a little urgent. After all, he was in the enemy's nest. You can tell me whether you agree or not. Don't forget that this is Hinata with a white eye. Every minute we stay here will be more dangerous. Yo urgent, he is anxious. He pretended to say yeah, and then just when the joying Kyumogakure ninja's eyes just appeared, he suddenly waved his hand, made a large piece of ice and smashed the paper sliding door next to it. Bah. In the quiet night, such a violent breaking sound could be heard far away in an instant. The joy that Kyumogakure ninja just felt suddenly turned into a tearing eyes. Damn. What are you doing? Until now, this guy still believes in his own judgment and still regards Senju Mayuki as a guy from other ninja villages who has the same as him. Do you still want to complete the mission? Do you know if you do this? However, at this time, there was already a purpose rush of footsteps in the corridor outside. Damn. Although I was so angry that I wanted to eat the other person alive, I couldn't think about it at this time. Since you don't want to cooperate, then let your subordinates show you the truth. Anyway, they have all been discovered, and it is basically impossible to escape now, so just drag the other party in, and we will die together. Finally, he gave Senju Mayuki a hard look, as if he wanted to imprint this guy who had harmed him deeply in his mind. It's a pity that the lighting conditions were too poor, and there was still a distance between the two of them. At a quick glance, I could only see a blurry face, and then the Kyumogakure ninja quickly shot towards Hina. Cheyenne caught it. Whoosh whoosh. Senju Mayuki was naturally prepared for his reaction. The moment he took action, he raised his hand and hit him with a row of 5 cm long ice needles. The one who can be sent by the Reikage to do such a thing is undoubtedly an experienced jonin. Of course, such an undisguised attack could not really pose a threat to him. The Kyumogakure ninja easily dodged the row of ice needles with just a slight twist as he advanced. A row of ice needles pierced the spot he just passed by dangerously, but the other party had no intention of looking back. Only Hinata's eyelids were trembling slightly in his sight. Stop the thief. Fortunately, Hinata and Hizu finally arrived at this time. After seeing this scene, they immediately hit him with a bagware palm. At this moment, two thoughts flashed through Kumogakure's mind like lightning. The first one is to grit your teeth and bear it hard. This way the girl will definitely be caught, but it will definitely be too late to dodge the opponent's attack. The second is to avoid attacks, but there is no doubt that once this opportunity is lost, neither the short man opposite nor the guy with bulging blood vessels around his eyes at the door will give him a second chance to succeed. Fight. Again, there is no way to escape now anyway, so it would be more reliable to take a hostage in your hands. At the moment when his mind flashed, the Kumogakure ninja clenched his teeth and hugged Hinata. However, just as he thought, Hinata Rizu's Bagwakan palm also hit his side at the same time. Well, the Kumogakure ninja suddenly had veins on his forehead and let out a groan, but he still gritted his teeth and held it back, and then said viciously to the two people in the room, mainly to Hinata and Hinata, "Don't move, otherwise I will strangle to death." Click. However, before he finished speaking, there was a slight sound of ice cracking, and the Kumogakure ninja who had been fierce and angry a second ago suddenly opened his eyes and struggled in a weird posture. The Kumogakure ninja who realized something was wrong immediately wanted to reach out and pinch Hinata's neck. Kakarot's just that. Although his speed is fast enough, the chill in his body spreads even faster. The Kumogakure ninja's right hand suddenly stopped as soon as he raised it to his chest. Then he saw him fall straight down with strong unwillingness, and Senju Mayuki, who was well prepared, immediately stepped forward and pulled Hinata away from him. He snatched it from his arms. Now finally. Put her down. An angry shout suddenly came from a very close distance. As soon as Senju Mayuki heard this, he immediately understood that Hinata must have been anxious and confused and did not recognize him, so he turned around and wanted to explain to avoid causing internal friction. However, what he didn't expect was that the leader of the Hyuga clan, who was usually very quiet, would actually start to attack so quickly. He had just turned his head and said a word, and the other party's finger was already poking on him. Senju Mayuki looked down at the two fingers on his chest in a daze, and then disappeared into white smoke with a pop without waiting for him to say anything else. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 Freshman. Having said so much, in fact, from the Kumogakure ninja jumping off the ceiling to the disappearance of Senju Mayuki's clone, everything happened in a very short period of time. And it wasn't until Hinata caught Hinata, who suddenly fell due to the disappearance of the clones, that the guards who came after hearing the news surrounded them with a burst of noise. Crack. While turning on the chandelier in the room, Hinata Hizu's mind kept flashing what that person wanted to say, but had no chance to say. This person is that guy from Kumogakure. Although the other party did not go out to greet him when he came to sign the contract as the patriarch of the clan, it was certainly impossible for him to be unaware of the envoy from U9 village. At the first sight of the other party's appearance, Hinata already understood the other party's true intention of coming to Konoha village this time, and touching the blood foam at the corner of Kumogakure ninja's mouth, it's ice. I looked inside the other person's body with my white eyes. Sure enough, there were signs of freezing in the limbs, mouth, tongue, and throat. With such ability, that person just now must be Senju Shinzuki. Look at the broken paper sliding door again. There are also some scattered ice cubes there. Obviously, he was the one who deliberately made the noise to notify others. He seems to be specially here to stop this guy from Hidden Cloud Village. But how did he know about U9 Village's plan? It's a pity that I was so excited just now that I gave the other party's clone doppelganger. Thinking back again, it seems that the little guy should still be in the process of performing his mission. He actually made a shadow clone and didn't let anyone know about it. Thinking of this, Hinata and Hizu's eyes couldn't help but move inexplicably. She didn't know what she was thinking. Asterisk. Meanwhile, Tonika village. Just as the clone was destroyed, Senju Mayuki, who was making a final effort against Yi Kang, suddenly felt dizzy and subconsciously pressed his hands down to maintain balance. His fingers hooked and scratched again. It turns out it's really much more comfortable than silicone. No, not yet. Otherwise, if the protection is not complete, he will die suddenly on the spot. Fortunately, I haven't woken up yet, chap. Thinking about it again, Senju Mayuki just wants to blanch herself. That guy Hinatarizu really knows how to bite Lu Danbin. I obviously went to help him protect his daughter, but this old guy came up and beat her without saying a word. This is why I accidentally pressed where I shouldn't have pressed and something grabbed. I shouldn't have correct. You can't blame me for this. It's all the fault of that old hammer, Hinatarizu. No one saw it anyway. As long as I believe it myself, the truth must be what I say. That's right. Thinking of this Senju Shinetsu, she immediately nodded in agreement, completely unaware that Yi Kang's eyelids in front of him had begun to tremble slightly. The day I received the letter from the third generation old man was December 12th, and today is already December 20th. No, it's past 0 o'clock now. It's already a new year, and it's officially 55 years since Konoha. During these 11 days, he spent the day hanging out with 3 girls aged 4, 8, and 13 years old. After returning to the residence in the evening, I worked hard on the plump Yi Kang until I was exhausted. Although it is very tiring, due to the very reasonable allocation of time, until now, no one except Quan still knows about the existence of Yi Kang. It can also be said that the essence of Master Reluo's inheritance has been deeply understood unknowingly. I have been here for more than 3 years. Looking at Yi Kang, who had been quickly thawed by him, and thinking about today's day, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but feel a little distracted. I still remember, when I first came to this world, I felt all kinds of shit in my heart when I met every familiar character. Later, I relied on my own hard work and efforts, as well as the support of 3 generations of old men and Tsunade to gradually grow up. Of course, the most important thing is that I work hard enough. Someone thought this very seriously. In the process, you have to pave the way for your future step by step and painstakingly. Just like the woman in front of me, I don't know how many times I was misunderstood by Quan in order to get her, but even so, I still persevered. You know it's your fault, but I just don't admit it. What can you do? After suffering so much suffering and grievance, today he was finally going to get his first real harvest. How could he not sigh for a long time and be filled with emotion more than 2 months? I was exhausted every night for the treatment. If you dare not listen to me, after you wake up, I will. As he spoke, his voice suddenly couldn't help but become a little excited. Moved. She finally moved. Cough. Just, what do you want? Seeing Yi Kang finally opening her eyes and trying to sit up, Senju Mayuki immediately excitedly stepped forward to help her lean against the bed, and in the process, medical chakra was injected into her body quickly and accurately. Go explore. For Yi Kang, this feeling of being explored has long been familiar, especially this warm medical chakra. She thought that she would never forget the smell of this chakra in her life, because it brought warmth to herself, who was trapped in endless darkness, and saved her from the cold hell bit by bit. So after feeling the invasion of Senju Mayuki, not only did she not have any thoughts of resistance, she even took the initiative to let go of all her inner feelings, just to allow him to explore and travel in her body more smoothly. Good, very good. While inspecting, Senju Mayuki's face became more and more happy. Finally, after inspecting all of Yi Kang's body, she finally couldn't help but laugh in surprise. Your body has returned to its best condition. Not only the injuries I suffered that day in Kirigakure village, but also the previous hidden injuries and wear and tear have basically recovered. Now I only need to replenish nutrition for a period of time, and I can return to the heroic sword release ninja. Looking at the boy in front of him, who was even happier than himself, Yi Kang had a lot of doubts in his heart before he passed out in the hidden mist village, and had many things to ask. In the end, he just looked at him with a smile and nodded, without saying anything else. In the days before waking up, Although the whole person was plunged into darkness, there were occasionally times when he was activated by medical chakra. Although I was still confused at that time, I felt more deeply than anyone else about the patience and persistence that the other party put in to heal me. Just like he said, more than 2 months. In order to treat her, I had to persist almost every night until all the chakra was exhausted. Because he is a ninja, Yi Kang understands what it feels like to exhaust his chakra, not to mention doing this every day for more than 2 months. Precisely herself, because she is a ninja, she understands better that there will never be another person in this world who can pull back from the world of death in this way. Therefore, for Yi Kang now, many things are no longer important. From now on, there will be only 2 beliefs in her world: listen to him and avenge yourself. The former hero of Tsunade has died in the conspiracy of Kirigakure village, and the top management of Tsunade be a brand new Yi Kang living for him in this world. Anyway, every part of my body is already familiar with his scent. January 55, Konoha 1. Consider this first day of the new year as the beginning of your new life. Chapter 117, Arrangements before leaving. Since Yi Kang's body was still relatively weak, Senju Mayuki didn't say much immediately after she woke up. Instead, she drank some number 5 solution as a supplement and then let her sleep. It's time to go back. A task has been delayed for more than 2 months. Even with the tolerance and support of 3 generations of old men, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but feel a little blushing before. All her thoughts were focused on Yi Kang, and she had no time to think about it so much. Now that she has recovered, she really can't go too far anymore. What's more, something like that happened last night. No matter how the 3rd generation old man plans to deal with it in the end, Konoha village is definitely the most nervous and in need of manpower now. But before leaving, he must still make arrangements for Tonika village, especially for Yi Kang's tasks in the future, and introduce her assistant Cecil to her. So after dawn the next day, in order to free up some time for himself, Senju Mayuki found Kurama-ranke early in the morning. Senior Yunhei. Kurama-ranke, who was about to go out for morning exercise, turned around and nodded to Senju Mayuki immediately after seeing him. Is something wrong? After all, this boy usually hangs out with girls all day long. It has been more than 2 months, and he has been approached so many times that he can't even be slapped in the face. That's it, Senior Yunhei. Senju Mayuki nodded and pretended to organize her words. After Yakumo's performance during this period and my examination of various internal organs in her body, I think her treatment has been successful. Is it? When Kurama Yunhei heard this, a hint of emotion that could not be expressed in words suddenly appeared on his square face that had always been expressionless. Then, does that mean we can go back now? Although judging from his niece's performance after the surgery, he had already made such speculations and psychological expectations. But in the final analysis, I still don't understand medical ninjutsu. How could he not be extremely excited when he heard the news from the attending doctor? The Kurama clan has finally seen the light of day. It's finally time to rise. Yes. Senju Mayuki nodded first, and then hurriedly stopped Kurama-ranke before he was about to go back to the house to pack his things. Senior Ranke, although Yakumo has returned to normal, her illness has been present since birth after all, so I think, to be on the safe side, I still want to prepare some more number 4 and number 5 reagents for her in case we leave. Something unexpected happens again. Oh, you're right. Upon hearing this, Kurama-ranke felt solemn again, and then looked at Senju Mayuki very seriously and said, it's just, I have to work hard for you again. For Yakumo, our family really owes you a lot. His senior, you are serious? We are all family members of the same village. There is no need to be so outspoken. What's more, the rewards and other things have already been obtained here. Okay. Kurama Yunhei couldn't help but feel awe in his heart. Listen. This is a candidate for the future Hokage. At such a young age, he already has such a glorious and majestic ideological consciousness. Is there anything else you need me to do? If so, please feel free to tell me. Well, there is indeed something that I want to trouble Senior Yunhei. This is what I'm waiting for. After a slight pause, Senju Mayuki looked embarrassed, scratched his face under the other person's gaze and said, I just thought that since I'm leaving, I might as well prepare some more solutions. So I wanted to ask Senior Yunhei if I could ask you to buy some corresponding containers, preferably the kind that can be sealed and uncorked once it can be used directly. No problem at all. At first, Kuramaranke was thinking about how embarrassing it was, but when he heard it turned out to be shopping, he immediately patted Senju Mayuki on the shoulder and assured, "After all, you are also thinking about Yakumo, so just feel free to leave such trivial matters to me. Is it a problem if money can solve it?" After saying that, I didn't even do morning exercises. I went straight back to the house, changed my outfit, and left quickly. There is no need to think about such a remote place, so he has to go to some larger towns to find those things. As soon as his front foot left, Senju Zenyu immediately called Sissel to the giant tree by the lake, because girls will have swimming training here almost every afternoon. Unless something unexpected happens, this area by the lake is an absolutely forbidden area for Hyuga Takuma, who has begun to know how to show off. "Teacher, you called me here because..." With her back to the morning sun, Senju Zenyu seemed to be covered with a layer of faint golden light that could not be looked directly at, making Sissel's voice even more cautious. Since he started training with Senju Shinetsu, Sissel, who has longed for strength, has firmly carried out the training tasks he arranged every day, and has extremely strict self-requirements. In addition, after training every day, she also takes number 5 solution as a supplement, so her strength can be said to have improved by leaps and bounds in 2 months, and her whole temperament is very different from before. But perhaps it is precisely because of this that the higher her strength, the more deeply she can realize the power and difference of her teacher. So now she has great respect for Senju Mayuki, and it can even be said that she is sincerely afraid, fearing that if she does something bad, he will disqualify her as a student. Sissel is teacher. Yakumo's body has recovered, which means our mission this time has been completed. It's time to return to Konoha village. After hearing this, Sissel was stunned for a moment, and it seemed that he took a while to realize what this sentence meant, and then an anxious look immediately appeared on his face. "Teacher, then I..." "Don't worry yet." Senju Mayuki raised her hand to comfort her. "It's true that we have been out for a long time this time. Leaving is inevitable, but this does not mean that I have given up on you." After saying that, while Sissel was still looking at him with concern, he suddenly turned his head and said confused behind the giant tree, "Come out." Sissel was a little when he saw a tall and beautiful woman walking out from behind the tree trunk. He was immediately shocked. "Teacher, who is she?" "Her name is Yikang, and she is much stronger than me now." As Yikang walked over, Senju Mayuki simply explained, "As for her identity and past events, it's a bit complicated to talk about. If you are interested in it in the future, and she is willing, let her tell you herself." After Yikang approached and nodded to Sissel with a smile, he continued, "Sissel, you have..." Yikang's appearance did seem to have a big impact on Sissel. "No, this is too big." But fortunately, her respect for Senju Mayuki comes from the bottom of her heart. She was just stunned for a moment, and then immediately calmed down. "It's teacher. Please say it. As I said just now, leaving here doesn't mean I have to give up on you." Senju Mayuki didn't care about her negligence, but looked at her with a meaningful look and said, "In addition to you being a very serious student worthy of training, another thing is that the lake here has some special effects for me, so what I hope is that after I leave, you can protect this place with Yikang, so that it can become another place outside of Konoha village that I can come back to at any time." "Okay. Of course you can." Although the teacher's focus may not be on himself, Sissel is already very satisfied to get such a reply, because the teacher must mean that he will come back here often in the future. "Teacher, please rest assured, I will definitely protect Tonika village together with Mr. Yikang." She originally thought that their relationship as teacher and student would end here, but she didn't expect to hear such good news. How could she not be so excited and extremely happy? "Well, I'm happy that you think of me that way." After hearing her reply, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but smile and nodded, and then told her, "Okay, that's all I want to tell you. Let's not do today's training. Let's go say goodbye to Izumi and Yakumo." Yes, teacher, after all, he was already 13 years old. As soon as Sissel heard this, he knew that the teacher must have something to say to Mr. Yikang alone, so he immediately bowed and left. Chapter 118 is full. It's really full. Speaking of which, there always seem to be some pretty girls around you. When Sissel's figure disappeared, Senju Mayuki turned around and was about to speak, but unexpectedly, Yi Kang suddenly made a joke, his eyes full of teasing. Senju Mayuki, his head is full of black lines. Okay, Kuramaranke's speed is not too slow, and we don't have enough time. When he said this, Yi Kang had no choice but to put away his interest in continuing the teasing and listen to him seriously. Before I leave, I will leave you part of the number 4 and number 5 solution reagents, and your task is to take good care of your body as soon as possible. There are many things that I need you to do for me later. Yes, Yi Kang's answer had a protracted ending, which was obviously not as serious as the literal meaning. And after seeing Senju Mayuki arranging matters so seriously, after thinking for a while, she suddenly couldn't help but ask, although I know you can't be judged by your age and appearance, you clearly have such a bright and broad future in Konoha, why do you go to such trouble to recruit people like me? Of course, this is just mine. It's just a little question. It doesn't matter if you don't answer. It won't affect the result. That no matter what you say, I will do it seriously. After hearing her question, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but be silent for a moment. In fact, the two of them already have this kind of relationship, and he didn't mean to hide it from her, but it's really hard to explain the 1000-year filial son thing. Come with me first. I'll show you something. Maybe you can understand it a little bit. Nodding towards Yi Kang, Senju Mayuki took the lead to walk to the lake, and then controlled the lake water to form a huge hollow water ball under Yi Kang's gaze. Bring it on. Are you going into the water? Yi Kang's ability is mainly fire. Entering the water is almost equivalent to leaving your life and death to others. However, she believed in him, so while guessing, she followed him into the water polo without hesitation. Yes, there is something down there that I discovered accidentally. I guess it is also the reason why the lake water here has such magical effects. As he spoke, Senju Mayuki controlled the water ball to close tightly and then quickly dived underwater. As soon as the water ball entered the water, Yi Kang felt that the surrounding area suddenly became much quieter. At 3 meters, the visibility is still very good, and you can see many kinds of fish swimming around. 5 meters away, the surroundings became increasingly quiet. 10 meters away, it seemed that only the sound of water colliding around was left. At 20 meters, the light overhead has begun to weaken. 30 meters, 50 meters. In the end, it wasn't until Yi Kang couldn't tell how much he had dropped, and the surrounding visibility had dropped to very low, that he suddenly heard Senju Mayuki next to him say, "Arrive." When Yi Kang heard the sound, he immediately turned to look at him. Unfortunately, under such lighting conditions, he could only see a blurry figure, but could not see his sight or face. Just when Yi Kang was about to ask a question, he unexpectedly saw a beam of light suddenly appear in Senju Mayuki's hand, and then it was reflected by countless controlled water patterns, illuminating a large area in front. Even prepared a flashlight. It seems that this brat was planning to take him down early in the morning. I was thinking about all of this in my mind, and then at Senju Mayuki's signal, I turned my gaze and looked forward. What is that? At this glance, Yi Kang's eyes were filled with shock. In her sight, the entire space below Tonica village seemed to be hollowed out, and all the support was only a huge black pillar pointed at by the light source. What is that? This scene really subverted Yi Kang's cognition, because there was obviously a man-made product. This pillar can actually support such a large piece of land. What kind of pillar can have such ideas and abilities? Exclamation mark. This huge pit, where Tonica village is located, has a legend about treasure since ancient times. Treasure? Yes. While controlling the water ball, to approach the giant black pillar, Senju Mayuki told her what she knew. The spear of heaven created by the ancient god was deprived of power by the filthy people. The filthy people hate everything and attempt to use that power to destroy the world. That power envelops the entire world and pushes the world to the edge of destruction. A deceased person accidentally picked up a fragment of power. The deceased turned into a person with red flames and launched revenge on the filthy people. In order to protect the power from being taken away by other filthy people, the man of flames broke it into 7 notes and sealed the song. After saying this, the water ball carrying the 2 people had already approached the giant black pillar. He looked up and down at this invisible bottomed heavenly creation, and then said to Yi Kang, who was already full of doubts next to him, I saw these contents in an ancient book in the village chief's home, and this black pillar should be the spear of the sky mentioned in it, because I can feel the power in this lake. Vibrant vitality escapes from this pillar. After hearing this, Yi Kang couldn't help but fall into a long silence. There is both a sense of shock and absurdity that the legend has come true, and there is also speculation about what Senju Mayuki will do now that he has obtained this legendary artifact. Even if she was betrayed by her beloved village, she would never turn her anger onto innocent people. So she was worried about what she would do if he couldn't withstand the temptation of power and turned into an evil person. Are you worried that after I get the Spear of Heaven, I will become a bad guy who only wants to destroy like what is recorded in the ancient books? Although he didn't turn his head to look at her, Senju Mayuki seemed to be able to guess what she was thinking. He asked first, and then continued without waiting for her explanation. If that's the case, then you don't have to worry so much. As he spoke, he stretched out his right hand and waved towards the lake outside, and then under Yi Kang's gaze, he separated a ball of number 5 solution reagent the size of a lychee. After all, I am not a madman. How could I be thinking about destruction and destruction compared with this legendary artifact? Compared with its attack capabilities, I actually value these accompanying creatures more, like this one, while controlling the solution, to fly towards Yi Kang's mouth. He continued, the Spear of the Sky absorbed the vitality of the surrounding land, creating the prosperity of the giant pit. And the life energy it emits is the most practical for me, because it means that everyone I care about can be as far away from illness and death as possible, just like you. Yi Kang was speechless. He just opened his mouth obediently and let the liquid slowly float in. He felt the slightly burning energy spread rapidly along the esophagus and throughout the body. Okay. For hearing such a care from his mouth really makes me feel that my whole heart is full and I can no longer hold any other distracting thoughts in the next period of time. In addition to recovering your body, the first task I give you is to obtain the 7-segment note in the altar of Tonica village with as little impact as possible. Time was running out. Now that the secret had been accepted by Yi Kang, Senju Mayuki no longer stayed any longer and immediately surfaced quickly while explaining, remember, all I want is to separate the notes from the singing, just to prevent others from activating it. After all, such an important thing is only guarded by a few ordinary guards. No matter what, I can't let go. Well, leave it to me. Although she has never seen what the so-called musical notes and singing sounds look like, since he has already given the accurate location, she, the former hero of Tsunade village, will certainly be confident to complete this task. Chapter 119 Tsunade ran away from the village again. On January 55, Konoha 1, after going out to treat Kurama Yakumo for nearly 3 months, a group of people headed by Kurama Runke finally stepped into the territory of Konoha village again. After returning to the village, they went to the Hokage's office for a mission report as usual, and the small temporary team was disbanded. After it was over, Kurama Runke simply said goodbye and took Kurama Yakumo home, although he wrote to his elder brother several times to explain the situation during the process. What could be expressed between the lines was more impactful than seeing the lively little princess in person. Now he can't wait to see the excited looks on the faces of his brother and clan members. The three of Senju Mayuki were old teammates. After watching Kurama Runke leave, they just nodded to each other as a farewell, and then parted ways, and went back to their homes. I'm back. Opening the door, the living room was deserted, and the windows and doors to each room were tightly closed. After closing the door, the hustle and bustle outside was suddenly cut off. It felt like the inside and outside of the house were two completely different worlds. In fact, since he officially entered the workplace, Nonoyu has gradually shifted his busy focus back to the orphanage. It's not that love will decrease, but her love is very average. There are people who need her almost all the time, so there is no extra time to wait here for someone who doesn't know when he will come back. Well, it's good to be busy, Nonoyu once said. For her who is seeking spiritual sustenance, everything she does for the children, and every drop of sweat she sheds, can make her mind more peaceful and at ease. Therefore, Senju Mayuki would never deliberately ask her to pay attention to her health, and not be so tired. After all, everyone pursues different things, and what you think is good may not necessarily be what the other person wants. Fortunately, both the furniture and the floor in the house are clean, and there are no traces of dust on the bed or sofa. This shows that Nonoe was still thinking about him during the days he left, and at least he comes to clean the room every once in a while. What is there to be dissatisfied with? Altogether, I have a soul that is dozens of years old. How can I still be so pretentious? Returning to the bedroom, he leaned on his bed and stretched hard for a while, and then looked at the last bit of afterglow shining on the wall through the window, and couldn't help but feel a little dazed for a moment. Although he thinks he has no problem with sleeping in bed, however, in such a gloomy evening like this, staying alone in such an empty room with no response, no matter how much I call, I suddenly feel that my whole mood has an urge to collapse. Why bother? Obviously I have such a bright future. Obviously there are already so many confidants and beauties around me. From now on, all you need to do is lean on Naruto's thigh, and then go on step by step, and then you can live a comfortable life. Why do you have to make calculations every day and make yourself so tired? No, no, no. It's loud. It's not even 12 o'clock yet. How dare any emo dare to break my heart? Letter? I tilted my head and saw that there was an unsigned envelope stuffed inside the pillow. Who will it be? Nonoe was the only one who can enter his room so easily, right? But shouldn't she doesn't need to go out to do any tasks now, so why does she need to write to herself? With a touch of curiosity, I tore open the envelope and immediately saw a thin piece of letter paper falling out of it. It seemed to have a faint smell of women's fragrance mixed with disinfectant mute. Although the handwriting looks a bit hasty and sloppy, after all, they are senior sisters and brothers who have been together for so long, and you can recognize them at a glance, just by looking at the writing style. Junior brother Zenyu, I'm sorry to tell you in this way. There were not many words in the letter, but it was already clear what she wanted to express. Tsunade ran away from the village again. Moreover, Shizune also said in the letter that she felt that Tsunade this time seemed different from any other time in the past and seemed to be really sad. The evidence is that before the day she said she was leaving, Tsunade was still immersed in the hospital's research room all day long. Although she was extremely tired, when she went back every day, she could still feel the happiness and contentment in her voice. But just a few minutes before I wrote this letter, Shizune said that she only saw Tsunade suddenly come home with a face full of anger and said let's go, and then she really packed her things and left. No matter how she tried to persuade her, it was of no use. And in Tsunade's state, Shizune didn't dare to ask any more questions, so she had to leave this letter in a hurry, hoping that her junior brother could find out the reason and find a way to persuade Tsunade back as soon as possible. After reading the letter quickly, Senju Mayuki could not help but frown slightly and fell into deep thought. Tsunade left the village at this time. Why? Although he knew that in the anime plot, Tsunade had never been back from the village for a long time, as soon as she appeared, he was not arrogant enough to think that he could influence Tsunade's decision and future. What he wanted to know was there any special reason why she chose to leave at this time? And looking at the signature on the letter, it was January 1st, which was just a few days ago. Words about the past few days, that is, signing an armistice treaty with Kumogakure village and Hyuga Hinata. No, with Tsunade's temper, if she was really dissatisfied with the armistice agreement, she wouldn't have waited so long to explode. That is to say, it is most likely because of the kidnapping of Hinata by the Kumogakure ninja. It's just that the shadow clone disappeared early because of the acupoint poked by Hinata Hizu that day. He really doesn't know what will happen next. After filling the container that Kuramaranke brought back, the group of them immediately set off on the return journey. After returning, they went directly to the Hokage's office, so they had no channel to obtain other information. Click. Just at this time, there was a sound of opening the door outside. Senju Mayuki hurriedly got up and walked out of the bedroom. He immediately saw Nonoe, who was closing the door behind him. You're back. Seeing Senju Mayuki coming out, Nonoe's whole person seemed to light up for a moment, and he didn't seem alienated at all because he hadn't seen her for 2 or 3 months. Good. After staring at him up and down for a few times and confirming that there were really no obvious injuries on his body, Nonoyu smiled again and then immediately walked over and opened the windows one by one. Nanoyu, what's wrong? Did anything happen in the village a few days ago? Some days ago. Nonoyu paused for a moment, then suddenly said, as if he remembered something, oh yes, a few days ago, the girl named Shizune who was next to Tsunade-sama suddenly came to me and gave me a letter, saying that she must give it to you when you come back. Well, I've already read that letter. Senju Mayuki nodded slightly. She mentioned in the letter that Tsunade-sama suddenly left the village in anger for some reason, so she hoped that I could find the reason and find a way to persuade Tsunade-sama to come back. But Tsunade-sama left again. Nonoyu turned around in surprise when he heard this. Obviously he had just heard about it. She didn't even know that she was frequently in and out of the hospital, which undoubtedly further proved that Tsunade's departure was definitely impromptu. If there is anything that would make Tsunade-sama angry, it would be. While Nonoyu was busy opening the window, he said with some consideration, it should be that the envoy from Kumoin village who just signed the armistice treaty with us sneaked back and wanted to kidnap Hinata, the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan, and was finally killed by the Hyuga clan. Senju Mayuki frowned, instantly died. What's the situation? I'm not sure how the two parties negotiated afterwards, but the ninjas in the village did seem a lot more nervous and serious than usual these days. Can't move. It's really impossible to carry it. He remembered very clearly that the clone only froze the guy's limbs and tongue, preventing him from shouting and tossing around. It would never reach the point of freezing someone to death. That guy Hinata, wouldn't he just think about killing the enemy without caring about him, even after he was captured? Exclamation mark. Are you okay? Do you have too much Parkinson's disease and can't stop showing off, my old man? Chapter 120 Funeral. Uchiha Clan. Because the distance was relatively long and there was no rush on the way, Quan didn't return to the intersection outside the clan until the sun had almost completely set. Unexpectedly, she happened to see an acquaintance, Weasel. After the opponent finished saying goodbye to his teammates, Quan K sped up briskly and quickly caught up with him. Itachi, who was walking alone and thinking about something silently, turned around subconsciously when he heard the sound. When he saw Quan running towards him with a smile like a flower, the melancholy in his eyes suddenly turned into a hint of relaxation. When Quan was closer, he nodded slightly to her. You're back. Yeah, long time no see. Ah, you too. As the two of them talked, they walked together in the direction of the Uchiha clan again. Or you can simply say that Izumi is basically the one taking the initiative, and Itachi is just a yes man. By the way, are those your teammates you saw just now? I remember they don't look like this, or am I remembering it wrong? Speaking of this, there was an obvious pause in Itachi's voice. It wasn't until Quan turned his head to look over in confusion that he heard him say in a voice without any emotion, you remember correctly, they are my new teammates. Paused. Izumo Tenma died in a mission some time ago, and Inari Kokoro gave up her identity as a ninja because she couldn't bear this fear, so the two of them joined my team as supplements. Ah. I'm sorry. As a friend, I didn't know that something like this happened to you. Quan's face immediately showed obvious apology. It's okay. Itachi shook his head slightly. His voice seemed to be answering, but also seemed to be telling himself, as a ninja, you have to be prepared to deal with various emergencies when performing tasks, and death is naturally included among them. After hearing his answer, Quan, who thought that, although he didn't care enough, he was at least a good friend, his brows suddenly twitched slightly. She felt that, although Itachi didn't like to talk much in the past, he was just an introvert, and was definitely not someone who would say such things. She didn't know what Itachi had gone through to become like this. She only knew that, if things continued like this, Itachi would most likely go in a direction that a friend would never want to see. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about your new teammates. They are willing to send you here. You must get along very well, are they? Itachi didn't think there was anything wrong with her abrupt change of topic, but immediately followed her words and carefully thought about the performance of the two new teammates, and then nodded in agreement. Although they are one class later than us, the two of them are indeed much better. As he said this, Itachi's mind couldn't help but recall the mission he had just performed with his teammates. Among the group of vegetable merchants who often visit Konoha village, one of them was actually found to be a spy from Iwa Ninja village. After the spy's identity was discovered, Itachi's second squad received instructions to deal with this person. In fact, Itachi had long known from his father's conversations with the ninjas in the clan that the Anbu was usually responsible for such work of elimination enemy spies. The reason why this mission was assigned to them, the second class of all genin, was in addition to the ridicule from his teammates that the higher-ups must still be interested in Itachi's excellence. Itachi felt that the more important thing was that all the Anbu should be busy dealing with a major incident now. Hinata's kidnapping can be temporarily hidden from ordinary people, but it can never be hidden from Uchiha, who is also a super-rich clan. What's more, the Uchiha clan is also responsible for the security mission of the entire Konoha village. If the guy from Kumogakure village can sneak in so easily, the police force headed by Uchiha Fugaku will more or less suffer. In order to avoid another war, almost all Anbu members were sent out, including the main ninjas in the village. They have also been ordered not to leave their posts at will in the near future, and to be prepared for emergency situations at any time. As for what the emergency situation is, you have to understand it yourself. It is precisely because of this that Itachi's second class was selected. After all, the senior officials couldn't just watch the spies of Iwa Ninja village escape, and Itachi's excellence was enough for them to ignore many other factors. Actually seeing Izumi looking at him with some concern, Itachi couldn't help but suddenly had a thought in his heart. If they had come back a few days earlier, the second shift might not have been able to do this task at all. Suddenly heartbroken. After all, because the new teammates are all newcomers, they have been doing D-level tasks for 3 consecutive months since then. Every time they go out, they are either catching birds, walking the dog, or plucking wheat seedlings for the old lady. Let alone improving his strength, he didn't even have a chance to use his Sharingan. Itachi is anxious. Really anxious. The increasingly heavy atmosphere of the clan meeting, the increasingly excessive clan meeting issues, and the ninjas in the clan who are immersed in the glory of Uchiha and can't extricate themselves. Every time he thought about this, the impatience and powerlessness in his heart became more obvious and unbearable. I feel that compared to Quan, who laughs and laughs every day and seems to have no lofty ambitions, what he does is more like a waste of life. By the way, I have something to tell you. Thinking of the gloomy atmosphere at the clan meeting, Itachi couldn't help but think of the masked man who killed Izumo Tenma. If you encounter a man wearing a black robe and a black striped mask outside in the future, be sure to be vigilant. Thinking that his attack would go through the opponent's head, and the strange way the masked man disappeared when he left, and even if he hadn't happened to meet Kakashi Hatake there that time, he might have also, wrong. He will definitely die in his hands like Izumo Tenma. He would never forget the 3 Magatama Sharingan he saw through the hole in the mask that day. In those eyes, Itachi could no longer see anything except indifference. It was as if in that guy's eyes, nothing in this world was worthy of his attention. Okay, I get it now. Although he didn't understand it at all, Quan still nodded seriously and wrote down his reminder. After all, anyone who is familiar with Itachi knows that he has never been a person who talks nonsense asterisk 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 on the other side. Unlike Senju Mayuki and Izumi, when Hyuga Takuma returned to the Hyuga clan, the first thing he saw was not his close family members or close friends, but white flags. White flags can be seen everywhere. In the end, what happened? It's not that he has never seen birth, old age, sickness, and death. But he has never seen something like this hanging on the door of almost every house that symbolizes condolences to the deceased. Who is it, or how many clan members have died? Exclamation mark. Very few tribesmen can be seen at intersections and streets. Even if I see a few occasionally, they all walk quickly in a certain direction with sad faces and hurried steps. I ran home all the way with extreme uneasiness. It wasn't until I entered the door that I saw my father and mother, who were also preparing to go out. Only then did I learn from their mouths what had happened. From U9 village, they sent envoys to sign a peace agreement, went to the other party, and returned again with the intention of kidnapping Miss Hinata. And then the patriarch captured the other party and shattered their conspiracy. As for what happened next, ordinary people like them don't know. They only know that the ninja from Union village died in the end, and the other party demanded that the Hyuga clan must hand over the murderer, that is, the body of the patriarch, otherwise it will be regarded as Konoha village taking the initiative to tear up the treaty and start a war again. In order to prevent the Hyuga clan from being blamed for causing another war, the clan leader's younger brother, Hyuga Hisashi, took the initiative to sacrifice himself for the clan. And tonight is his funeral. Chapter 121. What changes a person is often a small thing. As soon as night fell, goose feather-like snowflakes began to float in the sky again. Walking on the streets of Konoha village, most of the pedestrians on the road were walking in a hurry. The lights in the shops on the roadside gradually turned on, but they were soon covered by snowflakes. The lights reflected through the snow seemed to be all over the place. It brings a bit of cool feeling. Tonight the Hyuga clan will hold a special funeral and memorial. You can hear people discussing this topic just walking down the street. Why? In fact, after learning the news about the Hyuga clan from Nanao, Senju Mayuki has been thinking about this question. Even though he was already involved to this extent, why did Hinata Hisashi still die in the end? Is Hinata Hisashi really as out of mind as he thinks? Or is there really some so-called world will in this world? Or maybe there is something about Hinata Hisashi that says Hinata is 100% certain to die if she is kidnapped. To be honest, until just now, he was thinking about whether to go to that old guy Hinata Hisashi in person to ask what went wrong. If he hadn't happened to meet Naruto. Hey, have you thought about what you want to eat? You've gone through such a long cycle. Why are you more lazy than a girl? Today, Naruto was wearing an orange and yellow coat with a bright red woolen scarf around his neck. Coupled with his naturally optimistic smile, at least the first impression he gave people was quite sunny. At this time, she was following him happily with her hands in her pockets and a pace that she didn't recognize. There's no Moji. I just haven't found my favorite thing to eat yet. Naruto's answer was full of arrogance and happiness. After more than 2 months, we finally met again and found that this brother's attitude towards me has not changed as before, not to mention how happy he is now. Ah, found it. Walking through a familiar intersection, when I saw the store with the Ichiraku signboard, I suddenly saw Naruto pointing his hands on his hips with pride. I've decided, I'll let you treat me to this super delicious ramen. Ha, you really haven't eaten anything good. I told you that when I was out on a mission. Although he said this, what he was thinking in his heart was that it was actually because Ichiraku ramen was the only one who didn't refuse, so it was so unforgettable for him. Although Naruto was obviously drooling after hearing this, he still covered his ears with his hands and shook his head violently with a don't listen posture. What? I've never even heard of it. How could it possibly taste better than Uncle's ramen? Opening the curtain at the entrance of the store, in addition to the steaming white air, there were also a few customers. The legendary Ichiraku Otsutsuki was so busy behind the counter that his feet almost touched the floor. Even when he heard them coming in, he said welcome with his back to the door. Boss, 2 bowls of ramen. I want a big bowl of miso ramen. Okay, wait a moment, guest. It'll be ready soon. At the same time as he answered, Uncle Yal turned around with a bowl of ramen and turned his head to look this way. His eyes were stunned for a moment, and then a more enthusiastic smile appeared on his face and he said, it turns out it's you. It's really been a long time. Turning his eyes again, he looked at the way Naruto climbed onto the chair and drooled at the pictures on the wall while clutching his clothes. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes immediately became thicker. You guys sit down first. We'll be there soon. Hey, is it him? That kid? That's right, I think it's him too. How unlucky. It's okay to have a meal. Suddenly, a few low-pitched words came from the side. After Senju Mayuki listened to a few words, the smile on his face gradually faded away. He glanced to the left and discovered that there were several ordinary male villagers. It seemed that he recognized Naruto's identity halfway through the meal, and now he was looking at this side secretly, while exuding his malice without any concealment. Looking back at Naruto, although he forced a smile when he looked over, the loneliness in his eyes could not be hidden. He was obviously so happy just now, but a bowl of ramen made him look forward to it. He just wanted to eat a bowl of ramen. Even if you ignore Namake's Minato, he is just a kid who wants to eat ramen. Knew it. When a person wants to release malicious intent, He will not consider what is reasonable or logical. No matter how old the other person is, whether he is an old man or a child, all they want is for the person they are targeting to die quickly. You. I said. A few guests. Who would have thought that? As soon as he opened his mouth, Uncle Yale, who was cooking noodles, couldn't help but turned around with a spoon and said to them with an unhappy expression, "Everyone who comes to the store is a customer. Please don't do such unqualified things in public, okay? How can I be scolded for being incompetent, even if I eat ramen?" Several villagers were immediately unhappy upon hearing this. What is the lack of quality? How can you, the boss, talk so much? That's right. Is there any businessman who talks to customers like you do? Do you still want to work in this store? Awesome. On the day of the Kyuubi disaster, he didn't dare to bring the matter to the door of Ichiraku ramen shop. But if we want this meal to go smoothly, it seems that we can only drive these idiots out. Sit down and eat. A calm voice suddenly reached the ears of several villagers. Then, before they could turn around, a layer of ice quickly climbed up the stool legs and onto their clothes, frightening them so much that they all jumped up with a cry. Or get out. You. As a ninja, how can you use ninjutsu on ordinary villagers? One of the villagers shouted angrily, asking him to leave his name, and said he must go to the Hokage to complain against him. Fortunately, some of those guys were knowledgeable. Thinking of the rumors I heard from a ninja friend, I immediately stepped forward and covered his mouth, and then signaled to several other people to leave quickly. Hey, it's not nice to treat my guests like this, Duan. Duan. 2 super large bowls of ramen were placed on the table. Is it? While holding the chopsticks, Senju Mayuki raised his head and glanced. Sure enough, not only did Uncle Yale's face not show any displeasure, but he smiled so hard that he almost couldn't see anymore. Let's eat. Touched Naruto's head, they would say that, just because you are still young and not strong enough. Naruto looked up at him, and the image of those people leaving in a hurry just now appeared in his mind. If I were as strong as my brother, those people wouldn't bully me like this anymore. Thinking of this, Naruto's heart suddenly felt bright and happy, and the loneliness on his face suddenly disappeared without a trace, and then he became cheerful again. I'm starting chapter 122. Smell. A bowl of hot ramen was consumed quickly. After saying goodbye to Uncle Ichiraku and leaving the store, Senju Mayuki originally wanted to send Naruto home to rest early. Unexpectedly, this guy actually refused to let him go on the excuse of I haven't seen him for a long time, insisting that we go shopping together for a while. TSK thinking that Naruto would have to face an empty room alone when he went back at this time, he finally nodded. It can't be too long. It's so cold outside. If you catch a cold or a fever, don't blame me for not warning you. Although with this guy's physique, it's harder to get sick than not to get sick. I won't get sick. As soon as his wish came true, Naruto immediately looked like that stinky ass again. Then the two of them walked slowly along the street, not talking much, and not buying anything. But every time, when he was about to reach the end, Naruto would immediately walk faster, reach the next intersection in advance, and then look back at him expectantly. This guy, it seems that he really wants to spend a little more time with me. Naruto at this stage is really easy to control, and it only takes a little care and warmth to make him so dependent. No matter how clever he was, in the final analysis, Naruto was just a child less than 4 years old. He was just turning left and right, and soon he couldn't even tell where he was at the only corner at the end of the street, looking at the lonely street light and the deserted street in front of him, and then looking up at Senju Mayuki's unhappy eyes. Naruto could only scratch his head in embarrassment and give him a silly smile. TSK, you are quite good at leading the way. As soon as his mental power spread, he immediately discovered that Naruto was walking around in circles, and he actually led him around to the vicinity of the Hyuga clan. Now that we are here. While keeping up with Naruto, he directed his mental power towards the Hyuga clan's territory. It just so happens that it's still snowing right now, which is really convenient for his ability. First, it was a bird's eye view from a high place. When he saw many people gathered in a brightly lit courtyard, he immediately lowered his perspective and finally controlled the snowflakes to fall on the hair of a woman who was about to enter the morning hall. Black mourning clothes, white circles, coupled with the sad faces of many Hyuga clan members hanging down. Even without personal experience, Senju Mayuki could feel that the atmosphere in the morning hall must be very depressing. After the woman stood in one position, she immediately controlled her gaze to look in other directions. Hyuga Niji. In the left corner of the morning hall, a child of 4 or 5 years old was sitting there kneeling alone. Although it was different from what I remembered, who else could do this on this occasion other than Hinata Hisashi's son? Hey, such a talented person was wasted by them like this. If it weren't for the sake of safety, his favorite would actually be Hinata Niji. Because compared to the timid Hyuga Niji, who has great fighting talent and a super determined mind, is really much easier to train. It's a pity that he is really worried. If he doesn't get the recognition of Hamura Otsutsuki in the giant reincarnated eye, he will be in a huge loss. Therefore, it is much better to be troublesome than to miss the reincarnation when the time comes. Turning his eyes again, apart from the people he didn't know, he also saw Hinata Takuma in the crowd, but in the end, his eyes were fixed on a man who was incompatible with everyone else. The sun is full. Even at his own brother's funeral, this guy still looked calm and collected. For Senju Mayuki, who has watched anime, he knows that Hinata Hisatsu is just pretending to be strong. But what about Hinata Niji, who just lost his father? The anger and hatred in Niji's heart must have accumulated little by little from here. He sighed slightly, then turned his eyes again. Where's Hinata? I looked around Hinata Hisazu, but didn't see it. Then he changed the angle of view and filtered the entire morning hall, but still didn't see Hinata. Senju Mayuki's brows immediately frowned slightly. As the eldest daughter of the Zan family and the main reason for this incident, why didn't Hinata Hisashi allow her to attend? TSK. If you do this, no wonder your eldest nephew hates you so much. Old guy, hey, what are you doing here? At this moment, Naruto, who had been walking in front, suddenly shouted, drawing his attention back to the front. Not far ahead, under the street light, was a small figure huddled. Whose child is this? Why did he fall here alone in such a cold weather? Because I was worried that the other person might get frostbite, I teleported to the child while speaking. Hey, little girl, you. But when he squatted down and was about to reach out to check her, he unexpectedly discovered that the little girl with tearful eyes in front of him turned out to be the Hinata he was looking for just now. Ate dung? A chance encounter? As she was thinking about this, Senju Mayuki suddenly used a tactic to take her breath away, and then looked back at Naruto, who was walking towards him with his hands in his pockets, as if he was not acquainted with his relatives. Shio. Like. It has a bit of flavor. Hinata, why are you here alone? Still crying like this, because they had occasionally met Hyuga Takuma a few times before, Hinata did not show any rejection towards Senju Mayuki. Even when he wiped away the tears on her cheeks with his hands, Hinata suddenly raised her head and blinked at him, and then very carefully moved her nose forward, the tip of her nose twitching slightly. After a few clicks, I seemed to be identifying his scent. Who is she? Brother Zenyu, do you know her? At this time, Naruto also came over and stood aside curiously looking at Hinata with red cheeks. Well, she is the eldest lady of the Hyuga clan. I have met her several times before. Oh. Naruto nodded in understanding and then looked at Hinata, who had her two little hands grasping the sleeves of Senju Mayuki, and suddenly suggested with full energy, then let's send her home. She's so young, she'll definitely get sick if she stays outside for a long time. Of course Senju Mayuki also thought about this problem. He looked at Hinata's two little feet that were already red from the cold, then turned around slightly, pointed at her back, and said to her, come up. Hinata's voice was low and timid, but she did not refuse. What is the Hyuga clan? What does the clan mean? There was no one on the way to the Hyuga tribe. Hinata occasionally answered Naruto's questions along the way, while Hinata lay on his back, holding his clothes tightly with both hands, without saying a word the whole time. Wow, it's really a big home. When the two finally arrived at the door of Hinata Hayashi's house, and looked at the yard in front of them, that was bigger than they imagined, Naruto couldn't help but exclaimed. Then he looked at Hinata, who was still lying on Senju Mayuki's back, and refused to get off. You obviously have such a big family, why do you still cry? However, in response to his question, Hinata only tightened her grip on the clothes in her hands, and buried her face deeper. Hinata. At this moment, a man dressed in black morning clothes suddenly walked out of the yard, holding a paper umbrella covered with snow. Master Sun Tzu. Since there was still someone on his back, Senju Mayuki could only nod slightly in greeting to him. "It's you?" Hinata Hisashi, who was originally angry because his daughter left without permission, suddenly looked straight at her after hearing this voice. When he saw Senju Mayuki's face clearly, an indescribable strangeness suddenly flashed in his eyes color. "That night, it was you." Although he already had the answer in his heart, after receiving his clear answer at this time, Hinata Hisashi couldn't help but let out a secret sigh. Then he looked at his daughter, who was obviously afraid of being angry, but still buried her face in his back and refused to come down. "That's it now. I don't want to ask why anymore. I just want to know that you have good intentions. It's natural." Senju Mayuki answered without any hesitation, but after he finished speaking, he took another look at the morning clothes on Hinata and Hinata. "Can I ask why?" I obviously just controlled his actions and voice. Speaking of this issue, even under the not very bright street lights, you can see that Hinata and Hinashi's face suddenly turned green and white. After a while, he let out a long breath. "It was our negligence that we found 13 suicide devices on his body, but we still missed that there was a restriction hidden in his brain." "Understood. If you fail, replace yourself." It turns out that Union Village had this idea from the beginning. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Shikamaru. Fortunately, I'm a leader. The ice and snow castle at the 13th training ground is open for business. Children, brothers, and sisters are welcome to come and play in Konoha village. Several children from the orphanage rode in a small carriage pulled by 2 ice-sicker deer, shouting propaganda loudly, while receiving envious looks from every child on the roadside. After the Hyuga Hisashi incident, the turmoil between Konoha and Cloud Hidden Village finally returned to calm. Apart from adding a few sad people, the whole incident did not cause much disturbance. As for this so-called ice and snow castle, it was actually an idea that Senju Mayuki suddenly thought of after seeing a scene of several children gathering around and excitedly building a snowman. Since children like it so much, and they happen to have this ability, why not build an ice and snow castle? This can not only satisfy the fun of children, but also bring some extra income. Why not? So after reporting to the Third Hokage, Senju Mayuki directly built a large ice and snow world covering an area of more than 13 square meters at the number 5000 training ground in the middle of the village. Thanks to the influence of the explosion of information in his previous life, he didn't care about the styles of Central and Western Europe, South America and North America when he was producing. He just produced whatever came to his mind. No one in this world asked him for any copyrights anyway. A 3-story spire castle, a mysterious cabin in the woods. There are also all kinds of flower beds made of ice that can be seen everywhere in the yard. Or maybe those little animals that are obviously made of ice, but can run around freely. There are even 2 mighty and domineering guards with spears or swords standing at each door of the castle. Especially in the middle of the courtyard, there is a super large ice wolf that is more than 5 meters high and more than 10 meters long. Although the ice wolf is sleeping most of the time and only occasionally stands up and walks a few steps or all silently up to the sky, it has become a holy place that children must visit every time they come here. Such a dreamy amusement park has been enthusiastically sought after by children as soon as it was launched. Before it opens at 8 o'clock every day, there are always a lot of children gathered at the door, all wanting to be the first one to go in and play that day. Of course, so many things cannot be completed at once. Instead, we first took out the core 3-story castle, and then if I thought of something later, I took advantage of my shift break to add to it bit by bit. Then it was added, and in the end, not only children, but also many young men and women in love came here to leave a happy memory. As for the management and promotion of the playground, it is all left to the children and the orphanage. This will allow them to do more activities, and secondly, it can also exercise the children's communication skills. After seeing how the children were so excited and how they were still enjoying themselves, even though they were exhausted every day, Nonoe also took on the responsibility of medical staff at the suggestion of Senju Mayuki. After all, it is said to be an ice and snow castle, but in fact everything inside is made of ice. Once the children go crazy, they will inevitably have some bumps and bumps. Although those parents who have not been influenced by little composition always blame their children for being too stupid and never think of passing the responsibility to the playground, but if the children are cured as soon as possible without leaving any sequelae, then we can continue to harvest the next wave. Right, as more and more children came to play, various small merchants and vendors who sense business opportunities quickly gathered over snacks, toys, games. There are also some small balloons and trinkets specially sold to children for fun. Finally, as the number of people increased, a special small business district centered on children was formed, which directly increased the per capita consumption of the entire village. In February, it is said that after learning about this situation, the third Hokage was so happy that he could squeeze flies into his folds. Not only have some people have been specially arranged to maintain order and clean, even taking into account the large number of children here, several doctors were specially arranged to take turns to stay at the hospital, and Nonoe was at his disposal during the operation of the ice and snow castle. Idiots can't catch me, hehe. Don't run. Watch me catch you. The monster is coming. Run. Ha ha ha. Giggle. Listening to the crazy sounds of children inside. Look at the children in the orphanage headed by Lucy. Although their cheeks and hands were all red from the cold, none of them complained about suffering or tiredness. Instead, they enthusiastically shouldered their assigned responsibilities, those who provide promotional commentary, those who serve as tour guides for first-time guests, and those who run around the castle to remind children to pay attention to safety. Everyone is working hard, and everyone has a tired, but excited look on their face. It's so great to meet you, otherwise I might not be able to make them as cheerful as they are now. Not only can it bring a lot of income to the orphanage, but more importantly, the children also get a good release and exercise through this job. This is what Nonoe is happiest about. No, it should be said that we are lucky to meet you. Next to Nonoe, Senju Mayuki was also looking at the happy children with her. Since opening this venue, he will come over when nothing happens. After all, with so many things, it is inevitable that there will always be something that needs repairing. Fortunately, the temperature is still relatively low now. As long as there are no continuous sunny days, it only takes a little mental energy to keep it from melting for a long time. Hehe, you will tell me something nice. Although he said this, the smile in the corners of Nonoe's eyes was so strong that it was about to overflow. Obviously, what he was thinking in his heart was completely different from what he was saying, but soon, when she saw a fair-skinned little girl walking through the crowd, the smile in her eyes immediately turned to helplessness and helplessness. This little guy is good at everything, but his popularity with women is a bit too strong. At first, she thought that Uchiha Raizumi was her childhood sweetheart and her official first wife. But since she came back, after curing Kurama Yakumo's illness last time, she felt that the attitude of the Kurama clan seemed to be a bit ambiguous. It was obviously the hope that the whole clan had been looking forward to for decades. But after recovering from the illness, instead of staying at home and practicing the secrets handed down from the family, instead, he kept running over to find this brat every 3 days. Just like clocking in. If that's all, forget it. It can also be said that the Kurama clan has better tutors. Their eldest lady is repaying her kindness and will not forget her benefactor. But what she didn't understand was that after meeting the brat here once, even the eldest daughter of the Hyuga family started to follow the brat like a demon, running here whenever the brat was resting. After he arrived, he didn't play or make trouble. He just grabbed his clothes and followed him wherever he went. He was just like a follower? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Hyuga, the most traditional and conservative Hinata in Konoha village? You don't even need a reason and just give it to me, right? Uchiha, Kurama, Hinata. Fortunately, the one from the Nera family is a leader. Otherwise, 10 years from now, this Konoha village will become a hellish field for brats. What she couldn't accept the most was that she once heard from Kwan that even Yi Kang from Sunagakure village had some unclear relationship with the brat. Fortunately that woman is dead, otherwise she would never agree to being a guardian even in name only. Chapter 124. Rest in peace and the illusion of Sharingan. Of course, Senju Mayuki didn't know the sudden sadness in Nonao's heart. He just nodded to Kuramuyakumo immediately after seeing her, and then said goodbye to Nonao. I have spent so much thought on Kuramuyakumo, how could I let go so easily? What I said to her in Tonika village before was no joke. Then I'll go first. After saying that, he turned around and faced Kuramuyakumo. It is good. Nonao turned to look at him, watching him walk up to Kuramuyakumo. The two of them said a few words briefly, and then left together. Hey, I hope that day doesn't come so early. Today I want to try a new way on the way to the back mountain. Kuramuyakumo occasionally took the initiative to find some topics to talk to him, because she majored in illusion, and it was of the blood successor type. Ordinary training venues and facilities were not effective for her, so the two of them deliberately found a hillside in the back mountain to facilitate her framing and creation. As for why he was the sparring partner instead of someone from his own clan, in addition to the ambiguous attitude of the Kurama clan, what's more important is that Senju Mayuki's mental power is strong enough to withstand her various wild ideas and tossing. After all, illusions target the brain and spirit. It is really difficult for a ninja who majors in illusions to find a sparring partner who can work hard. Okay, how many minutes will it take this time? Arriving on the hillside of the back mountain, seeing Kuramuyakumo holding the easel skillfully, Senju Mayuki asked casually. As a professional illusionist family, the professional knowledge received by the little girl in front of him is many times more than that of a dabbler like him. So now I don't talk about the opening remarks and illusion theory before every training. After that, I just ask her to draw a work first. Then he used this work to test it on Senju Mayuki, and after he solved the illusion, he told her the shortcomings he discovered. Then Kuramuyakumo will summarize the experience and shortcomings before drawing the next work. After finishing, he will continue the previous steps so repeatedly until the sun goes down or one of them can no longer hold it any longer. If it weren't for a special purpose, Senju Zenai's wave is really a bull, horse, tool, man, and stone hammer. Fortunately, she was picturing him as a sparring partner while he was picturing her as a whole five. The moment he spoke, Kuramuyakumo hesitated. 10 minutes after all, it is a new attempt, so it is understandable that you want to be more cautious. Row. Senju Mayuki responded, then turned around and found a place to close her eyes and wait. Of course, illusions cannot see the caster's thoughts in advance, otherwise they will have no effect. 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8. Kwan, why are you here? And what's going on with you? Suddenly, Kuramuyakumo's obviously panicked voice came to his ears. Senju Mayuki opened her eyes immediately after hearing the sound, and then at a glance she saw Izumi, covered in blood, walking towards this side with an indifferent expression. And in her hand, she was holding a dagger still dripping with blood. What's the situation? Senju Mayuki subconsciously felt something was wrong. But it's obviously not even 10 minutes yet, so it shouldn't be Yakumo's jinjutsu. He turned to look at Kuramuyakumo, only to find that she had walked to him at some point and pointed at Izumi where something was wrong with her paintbrush and said, "What happened to you? Whose blood is this?" Looking at the little girl next to him, Senju Mayuki's eyes suddenly became trance-like. Is it my imagination? Why does this little girl seem to be taller? And why do her clothes seem to be faintly glowing? Take orders from Hokage-sama. Kwan on the opposite side finally spoke, but his voice was colder than he had ever heard before. Effortless efforts will be made to hunt down the SSSSSSS level defector ninja Senju Mayuki. All those who resist and obstruct will be executed on the spot. Cat? I? A defecting ninja? Question mark? Still SSSSSSS level? Does our world have this level? Exclamation mark. And when you, the person who came to arrest me, spoke, why didn't you look at me, the capture target, but at the little girl in front of me? Exclamation mark. No. If you want to capture Brother Zenai, you must kill me first. Hearing what she said, Kuramuyakumo in front of him immediately stood up excitedly, and the light on his body seemed to be even more dazzling. Ha, you asked for this. Quan on the other side shouted directly without any ambiguity, writing round eyes. Kua his 2 eyes instantly turned into blood red 3 Magatama, and then he glared hard at Kuramiya Kumo, who had an unyielding face. Rest in peace in the Jinjutsu of the Sharingan. Puff. Kuramiya Kumo fell to the ground, and Izumi on the opposite side sneered. Then he suddenly appeared in front of Senju Mayuki, and put the dagger in his hand against his neck. Just go ahead and capture me. As a former teammate, I can guarantee your success. The sound stopped suddenly, and in Senju Mizuka's speechless and Quan's horrified eyes, a sharp paintbrush penetrated her chest. Kuramiya Kumo, who didn't know, when he stood up, started to glow again. Although you are an Uchiha, when it comes to Jinjutsu, don't underestimate our Kurama clan. Puff. This time the spring fell. Finally, Kuramiya Kumo looked at her angry and unwilling eyes, and said with both satisfaction and determination, I don't care if I rebel or not, as long as I'm still here, I won't allow anyone to capture Brother Zenyu. After saying that, she stepped directly on Quan's corpse. After that, she even stepped on it unconsciously a few times. Then she looked up at Senju Mayuki and said, Brother Zenyu, since they don't like you, then take me with you. No matter where you go, whether it's Tonika village or Yichang village, I will always be with you. Seeing the little girl in front of him who was so moved, and who looked like she wanted to run away with him immediately, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but reached out and touched her head with great pleasure, and then, boom. Oops, wow. After a period of phantom distortion, everything just now disappeared. There is no fountain covered in blood. Kuramiya Kumo's body won't shine either, not to mention the SSSSSSS level rebel ninja Senju Mayuki, Sama just a little lolly with a frown on her face, and rubbing her head. First, as far as I know, there are only S level traitor ninjas in the entire ninja world. No matter how powerful he is still an S level. Secondly, Izumi is still a Magatama, and when she uses it, she doesn't yell like a fool. Thirdly, although people who have been affected by illusions will have some cognitive biases to some extent, they will never be able to detect such drastic changes in the personality of someone they are very familiar with. Fourth, boom boom boom. Yeah, illusion is a way for you to attack your enemies, not for you to stage a suspenseful idle tear-jerking romantic drama. Stop showing me those mindless things in the future, do you understand? Oh, the voice is elongated. Lower your head and curl your lips, while elongating it again. I won't give you a time limit this time, but if you can't draw a decent piece of work this afternoon, you won't be able to keep any of those treasures in your drawer. What? When Kuramiya Kumo heard this, he immediately didn't dare to play tricks anymore. He hurriedly ran back with his short legs, and sat in front of the drawing board. He was just changing the paper, while muttering something about abominable and tyrant. Senju Mayuki just smiled indifferently at this. Nothing to worry about if you want to curse. Just curse a few words after all. All her efforts now are to serve herself better in the future. In order to get a stronger and more useful tool man, it is acceptable to bear a little grievance now. Chapter 125 Next mission. When the shadow of Cloud Hidden Village completely dissipated, Senju Mayuki's life returned to its usual trajectory. In addition to normal commuting to and from get off work, all you need to do every day is your own practice and sparring, as teammates. Although Izumi and Hinata no longer need to practice together frequently, they must at least conduct regular simulation drills every 3 to 5. This is a rule, and it is also the basis for a team, to maintain a high degree of cooperation at all times. And with the participation of Kuramiya Kumo and Naruto, Senju Mayuki instantly felt as if her personal time had been compressed to the extreme, especially when Hyuga Hinata pestered him for some unknown reason. He immediately felt even more trapped. Although it is indeed a good thing for him that Princess White Eyes is close to him, but then the time is really not enough. If you use a shadow clone, you will be complained that it is unfair. Many times he was so worried that he scratched his head. I regret why I didn't follow Master Eluo to take the time management course. But fortunately, these little guys are so annoying that they will try their best to meet his training requirements during sparring. Even if you don't meet the standard that day, you can basically catch up with the progress by the next flop. just to get him a positive smile and a satisfactory head pat. Then, just like that, the days passed by at a pace that was busier than the Hokage every day, until one day at the end of February, when he was getting off work, two figures, one tall and one small, suddenly blocked his way home. Teacher. Hearing this joyful voice, Senju Mayuki's eyes widened instantly. You? It has been several years since he came to this world, and so far, Sissel is the only one who can call him that. And who else could the tall and thin woman beside her be besides Yi Kang? Why are you here? After returning home, as soon as she sat down on the sofa, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but ask doubtfully, and then looked at Yi Kang, who was sitting opposite. And you? Although he didn't finish his words, he believed that Yi Kang could understand what he meant. After completing the mission, he did not die, but did not return to Tsunade village to recover. According to the rules of the ninja world, it is an act of treason. That's why he was puzzled that Yi Kang appeared in Konoha village so blatantly. After all, he believed that she was definitely not a person who did things without considering the consequences. Are you surprised? Seeing his behavior like this, Yi Kang seemed a little satisfied. Fortunately, she didn't show off too much. She directly lifted up her right sleeve and explained, "Look, I'm now the coach of the security force of Tonika village. I came to Konoha village today as the representative of Tonika village with the mission of expressing gratitude to the friendly villagers _o." Seeing the patterns on the tattoos from the front half of her right forearm to the back of her hand, Senju Mayuki noticed that today's Yi Kang is indeed very different from before. The most obvious thing was that the large piece of fabric she had worn inside out for who knows how many years was missing, changed into a decent and slim-fitting dark blue uniform. The forehead protector was also taken off. Although there were still pills on the top of the head, the color of the hair was all dyed the same orange. Well, staring at her up and down carefully, I found that, after changing into this outfit, the overall look and feel of Yi Kang now is indeed very different from before. At the very least, if you are not a particularly familiar person, you will never recognize her from a distance as the sword escaper Yi Kang who once made Iwagakure village so ecstatic. Well, that's fine in the end. Senju Mayuki had no choice but to nod in admiration. Although I won't stop you from seeking revenge, I don't want you to be exposed prematurely. After all, there is still a big gap between your current strength and that of a village. What's more, I think your goal should be more than just a sandman. Hidden villager. Speaking of this, the smile on Yi Kang's face gradually faded away. As long as the war still exists, tragedies like mine will definitely happen one after another. If possible, I hope to end this curse with my own hands. This day is not far away, believe me. Okay. Of course I believe you, I only believe in you. Woohoo. Just as the water in the kettle was boiling, Sissel, who had been pretending to be transparent, hurriedly poured 2 cups of hot tea over. Teacher, Lord Yakura, please have some tea, thank you. Compared to Senju Mayuki's peace of mind, Yi Kang, who is obviously the strongest among the three, is more polite. Okay, it's time to get back to the topic. With that said, Yi Kang pushed the box wrapped in black floral cloth next to him across the coffee table in front of Senju Mayuki. Although the process was a bit tortuous, luckily it didn't disgrace O. Senju Mayuki's eyes immediately brightened, and he immediately opened the black cloth and box, and sure enough, he saw 7 silver white sticks lying inside, which looked very much like some kind of special metal. The shape of each stick is the same, the only difference is the length. One end is threaded, and the other end is a round plug made of unknown material. When these metal sticks are very light, and both the weight and the sound of knocking make them feel hollow inside. Can you control that heavenly spear with just these sticks? Yi Kang was very puzzled. But think about it, for her who has been receiving ninja education, one day she suddenly discovered that there is such a thing as a touch screen for electronic devices in this world, which was really hard for her to understand and accept. There are still many weird things in this world that you don't know about. Senju Mayuki smiled, but didn't intend to explain too much. After speaking, he thought about it, then picked up a note from the box and threw it to Yi Kang. Yi Kang, as I told you before, I don't care how this thing controls the spear of heaven. Faced with Yi Kang's questions, Senju Mayuki behaved very freely. Now I give one of them to you for safekeeping, which can be regarded as proving to you that this is what I really think. Of course I believe it. Don't refuse in a hurry. He knew what Li Kang wanted to say, but he still interrupted her and continued. You should also understand that it is too easy for people to get lost with too much power. Keeping these notes separately is also for safety reasons. Hearing what he said, Li Kang stopped trying to shirk and instead solemnly put away the 30cm metal rod from the hem of his uniform. Obviously she also knew that Senju Mayuki gave her this note not only for so-called safety considerations, but also for trust in her. Okay, seeing her performance like this, although she wanted to know where Li Kang had hidden the notes, for the sake of her good teacher image, Senju Mayuki still picked up the teacup and took a sip, and then said, now that things at the base are settled, we can start taking the next step. After saying that, he signaled Li Kang to wait, and he got up and went back to the bedroom and dug out a book that looked quite old from the cabinet. At your level, you must already know about the tailed beasts, right? Well, it is said that it seems that the first Hokage distributed it to each village. The 1 tail of Tsunade village, the 9 tails of Konoha village, the 4 tails and 5 tails of Iwagakure village, etc. Taking the book with one hand, he opened it and saw that it contained the legend and rough drawing of the tailed beast. What do you mean? Your next mission is to find someone in the grass ninja village and bring her to the base, no matter what method you use. Who? A little girl with red hair. Uzumaki. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.